welcome to Into the Aether. It is a low-key video game. Wait, no, this is a bonus episode. Hello, and welcome to a very special bonus episode of Into the Aether. It's a low-key video game podcast, and my name is Brendan Bigley.
I'm Stephen Hilger, and joining us at the top of the episode is our dear friend, our Wii enthusiast and apologist, Mr. Dominic Nero. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. And as Mario says, here I go.
Well, that was a great time recording with you both. See ya.
The shortest bonus episode so far.
We are going to be talking about the recent Mario 3D All-Stars collection. And more specifically, in the 3 sections of this episode, we'll be going into detail about each game individually. But in the beginning, the three of us wanted to talk about maybe like this particular collection of games and also this particular collection on Switch and like how we feel about that and what's going on around that. So just to kind of frame the whole episode.
Yeah, also, Dom wrote a great series of essays for Esquire, which I'll link to in the show notes. One for each of the 3 games, which are wonderful. Great job there.
Thanks. I also have a fourth essay coming out about the central antagonist of the Mario games, Zant.
Nice. Okay.
What?
That's exciting.
Zant is the self-proclaimed king of Twilight. He's a member of the Twilight who usurped the throne of the Twilight realm.
Uh-huh. And he's the central antagonist of the Mario franchise.
He is a powerful sorcerer and minion of Ganondorf.
That's true. Those are all true. Those are all valid points. I agree with you so far. I can't wait to hear how it all connects. It's going to be very exciting. So go to esquire.com, a good website, to find out.
I'm sorry, guys.
What the fuck that means.
No, that's okay. I know how much your role on this earth is to remind people of Zant, I think. He's not often discussed enough. He really like shows up so ready to be the villain in Twilight Princess and then is like quickly like pulled off stage with the cane. Like even the game is like, we can't commit to Zant. We gotta get Ganondorf out there. We can't do this.
Yeah, the most Nintendo has mentioned Zant is just getting his hat in Breath of the Wild later if you download a DLC. Like that's as much lip service as they'll give him.
Steve, when you asked me to talk to you guys all week, I was thinking, I'm going to go in there and I'm only going to talk about Zant. The moment I turned on my camera, I knew right away I'm not going to be able to keep up this bit at all. I feel too bad. I'm sorry, guys. I won't talk anymore about Zant.
It's okay.
I kind of want to talk about Zant a little bit more, though. Zant is the only character that Nintendo, I think, focuses on less than Waluigi.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, at least Waluigi is a cult of personality. Zant has literally you, Dom, in this exact moment.
Yeah. Zant is the PlayStation Vita of Nintendo.
I liked Zant. I was down with Zant.
I liked Zant.
I would have had Zant for the whole game. I would have been fine with Zant.
Yeah. I would have loved a Zant redemption arc where Zant becomes your friend and maybe there's like a Fire Emblem kind of like romance option with Zant.
Yeah, only with him though.
Isn't Zant also in the Four Swords? Or am I thinking of a different Zant?
I don't know. No one knows. No one knows that this is a fandom spelunk one night that I'll read and immediately forget. But yeah, well, more on Zant later in the upcoming 4th essay. I do think we should talk about the Mario collection because it's been 5 whole minutes on Zant. That's our type 5 on Zant, the 4th essay, the 5th child, if you will. So it's out. I mean, I think, you know, in terms of framing the whole discussion, I know, Brendan, you kind of want to talk a little bit about like the reception of this collection overall and like what the conversations around that have been. Yeah.
Dom, I think you've played the collection more than either of us because as of this recording, the collection's been out for 2 days. It came out on Friday. We're recording on Sunday. You've had it for a while, as far as I can tell, because you were reviewing it. But I think, you know, even without playing it, the lead up to the release of this thing was really kind of bizarre because you had on one hand, you know, Nintendo saying, hey, we're releasing these 3 games in one package. Isn't that so exciting? And then on the other hand, you had like gamers online very upset about like very menial things about it. For example, the fact that, which I think this one is maybe the one valid one that Steven and I talked about a lot on our episode where we talked about this when it was revealed, but it's only going to be available until March and nobody knows what's going to happen in March. It could just disappear like Zant and never return. So that's kind of
gone with the Zant.
That's kind of a bummer. One of the other things, though, is that Mario 64 isn't in 16:9 widescreen. That was a thing that people were very upset about. Eventually, it was revealed that they are emulated versions of these games. So they built like an N64, GameCube, and Wii emulator for the Switch, and that they're just emulated ROMs, essentially. And people were upset about that as well. And then when the reviews came out, a lot of the reviews were they had this twinge to them that was like, these 3 games are incredible, but it could have been more. And there's like this kind of underlying disappointment. I'm just wondering, Dom, where did you land on all of that stuff? Like, how do you feel about that at the moment?
I remember when we were leading up to the 35th anniversary and everybody was expecting Nintendo to like release remasters. A lot of people were sharing screenshots of like, remasters that already exist. Like, there's like a Super Mario 64 PC port that's like beautifully remastered with new textures. And
somebody threw it in Unreal Engine, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're always making these games in the Unreal Engine. I remember I had a GameCube emulator on my Mac, and I downloaded, it's all very legal though, and I downloaded, it was retexturing Ocarina for HD was as easy as just downloading like one texture pack.
Yeah.
And it changed it completely to HD widescreen. And I was thinking, like, this is amazing. I'm playing this game that I loved from my childhood in this, beautiful new way. So I don't think like Nintendo has any excuse for not doing a little bit of effort to make these games look remastered at all, especially when there's like remasters like the Crash Bandicoot remaster or the Tony Hawk. But at the same time, as I was playing them, I started thinking about how we don't really need these games to change. I mean, you could make the argument that like playing the original Crash Bandicoot in just higher resolution on your flat screen TV would be good enough. But like, I think those games that they're remastering really needed like a breath of fresh air. I don't think you need any fresh air with Mario 64. It plays fine. I don't care that it's in standard, in 3x4 or whatever. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up on that if you don't mind. I think that's a really sober take, because I think that like, as we said before, like the critiquing Nintendo for like giving this game, which is very much just here are these games on Switch, a limited time release, is kind of bizarre. And but that has become the lightning rod for like critiquing. It's the same thing that happened to Pokemon, where like they were like, oh, not every Pokemon's in this game. And then that led to like, 2-hour YouTube rants of like, there was a mouse in the direct. You could see a computer. It's like, that's okay. Like you don't need to like, you can be upset. You can feel any way you want to. You can feel upset enough to not get this game, but then it leads to like ridding it of all value. And I think something I was thinking about, like, but I think you're right. I think you can definitely critique Nintendo for not really doing a lot here. You can critique Nintendo for the limited time release. Critique Nintendo all you want. We're not here to be Nintendo talking heads. That being said, I think that there are two really big points I want to make that I think will inform the whole episode, if you don't mind listening to me, Steven, aka Zant in disguise. Anyway, one is that I think the term remaster, and this is a weird parallel, but it's the best parallel I can think of in my mind. The term remaster is really ambiguous. I don't even know if they use the term remaster for these games.
No,
that's
not at
what
all.
People called them, like unconsciously.
Oh, that's a good point.
But a remaster is kind of like when grocery stores call something all natural versus organic. Like if they're selling something that's organic, it legally has to hit certain parameters to be sold as such. But natural legally is like a big gray area that could mean literally nothing.
Right.
It could just be like, this tastes good. It's all natural, But I think with remasters, the definition of what a remaster is could literally just be a port. It could be like a slightly, it could be something like FF12 Zodiac Age, where it's like a port of the game, but they've enhanced the game and added options to like have quality of life things. It could be something like Tony Hawk 1+2, which to me is more of a remake, where that's like ground up. And I've seen a lot of like thoughtful reviews of this Mario collection that have compared directly to the Tony Hawk remake, which I understand because they're like both currently out and they're both like seemingly kind of doing the same thing. But that to me feels unfair, because the intention of Tony Hawk 1+2 is to really revive that series. Whereas this is almost like Nintendo's first attempt at game preservation, which leads into not prettying it up. I think that this collection is really great because you can just experience the games as they are, warts and all. And I think that what you have in this collection to me is simultaneously like the awkward teen years of Mario and also them like kind of figuring it out, you know, and that's what I think is really important. Like, while I love to take a game that, like you said, Crash Bandicoot, like, it's okay, let's take a game that was doing something cool and make it a little bit more digestible by today's standards. But there's a lot of value to experiencing a game just as it was. And that's not to, you know, to excuse Nintendo not putting in effort, but it's like, I think for this release, I do think their intention was, here are these games on Switch, and that's what it is, and that's what I've been enjoying about it.
Yeah, so there was a lot of like online discourse months ago, you know, as soon as people kind of caught wind that this was the 35th anniversary of Mario and Nintendo was going to do something. A lot of the like leaks and rumors about this were framing it as a remaster, you know, so a lot of people I think were expecting a remaster, even though Nintendo had never actually said like, hey, this is going to be a remaster.
That's
right?
True.
So there were a lot of like tweets and kind of just ambiguous rumors pointing to this being a remaster, and then it came out and it wasn't one, you know, and I think that's kind of maybe the catalyst for a lot of the discourse that I've seen about it. But I'm kind of two minds about it, because I'm with you, Stephen, that in playing it, I am totally fine with what it is, I think. And even more so, I think like we maybe as like people who are extremely online video game people are not even really the target audience for this as much, you know. I was talking to a friend of my partner who was saying, like, literally, this was like 2 weeks ago. She was like, I really wish I could play Mario 64 on my Switch. You know, she has like no games on her Switch, but she really wanted to play Mario 64. I was like, do I have great news for you? Because in 2 weeks, you're going to be able to do exactly that. And it's going to have Mario Sunshine, and it's going to have Mario Galaxy. And she was like, oh, I never played Mario Galaxy. That sounds like a fun time. And like, that was it. That was the whole conversation. She was just amped. She pre-ordered it immediately, you know? And like, that was it. And I think to a lot of people, it's just going to be like, oh, I could just play that again. That's great. Because the Switch is like becoming one of the fastest best-selling consoles of all time, just like the Wii did back in the day. And they ported everything to the Wii. And I imagine this is kind of a similar thing. On the other hand, so that's one side of it, and that's kind of where I more land. On the other side of it, and kind of, I think where I would give a little bit more credence to some of that like bummer outlook on this thing, is that they're using the vernacular of All-Stars again, you know, like Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo, which we just talked about, I think in the last episode or maybe 2 episodes ago, was an actual, like, that was Nintendo's actual remaster of all of their games.
That's what I was waiting to say, is they did reskin those old games.
Yeah.
In Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
I know. So when this was coming out, I was expecting, when we were anticipating this being announced, I was expecting, they're going to bring the Mario from like Super Mario 3D Land or like Super Mario Odyssey. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the Mario that you play as in all of these old games. And that's going to be cool as hell. But I mean, I just feel like with Nintendo, like we can sit here all day and try to think about why they do the things they do, but you will never succeed. They will always do something either so frustrating and strange, or so strange and like incredible. And like,
it's
that's
either
what we love about them.
Brilliance that like redefines reality, or like, here's a weird arm I'm selling you for $80. It's your new controller.
Exactly.
What?
The one thing that I know you want to talk mainly about Galaxy, but playing these 3 games, I really love how they added the controller support for Galaxy. That rocks. I think they did a great job. But in Super Mario 64, which I've been playing a lot this past weekend, I'm so surprised that they didn't attempt to fix the camera issue at all. I mean, it's hard to play that game sometimes. The angle with the camera with the two, like Lakitu is like a camera, and also you have your Mario camera, which is
if you press like one of the shoulder buttons, you get like a Mario camera.
But sometimes it barely shifts at all. It's like, I feel like that was a simple fix that they could have just like spent a little bit of time fixing that.
I agree. I mean, I think like you can very much tell. I mean, I'll save my thoughts on 64 for our segment about it, but like the best and worst thing about Mario 64 is that you could tell 3D was a new concept. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like the game is so excited to be in 3D, and so much about the game's identity and what it's doing, which is very much unique to it. You know, I think with Galaxy, you can see a direct trend that has led to the more current day Marios. But 64 and Sunshine are almost in their own worlds and doing their own thing. I think Odyssey feels the most like 64 in that it is attempting to let you explore an open environment, and it's rewarding curiosity over Galaxy's kind of style where it's like, here's an obstacle course we've like very tightly designed for you.
It's a little railroady in Galaxy. Yeah.
But yeah, I think like the camera is such a new concept of 64 that like it is like easily the most frustrating thing about it. Like, I mean, I noticed that mostly in the first Bowser fight where it's like, I can't even see where the bomb is, you know? Like, I you know, but I think that game is really like playing original ass Mario 64 is really like going into a museum. And I've been enjoying just that aspect of it, because I do think that game out of the three is doing the most unique stuff still. I don't know if I don't know if I can say it's my I mean they're all
so
three are
good.
great, but I think like there's something about going back and really experiencing just the raw original game on Switch. So you have the novelty of like, I don't have to pray my 64 works and like dust it off and you know, plug it in with 8 million chords. I can just put on the Switch and play it, but it's still the original thing, which I think there's a lot of value in as well. You know, I don't think it should be a limited time offer, because that's where
bizarre.
it really like eradicates my defense of Nintendo here, because I'm like, even if it was a refined remaster, there's no benefit to having this limited time thing. That's bizarre, and that's like the chaotic evil of Nintendo. But I think overall, to sum it all up, like I think that there is value in experiencing these games as they are, both in a I just want to play Mario on Switch. Woohoo, I got it. And I want to deep dive into the history of this series like we are. So I think that both parties will be happy, because it's just them on Switch, you know, for better and for worse. That's what you're getting.
Yeah. I think, though, to like kind of transition into Galaxy a little bit more, I think Galaxy is the one that has the most change. You know, like Galaxy, they actually have like kind of refined and shifted around a whole lot. Steven, you and I, right before we started recording, were talking a little bit about the different control schemes that we've been using, because a lot of Galaxy was like waggling the Wiimote and like aiming it at the screen and using it to do a bunch of things. There are a bunch of like mini game galaxies and stuff that you go to that are like entirely motion controls. And I think they've done a really, really, really good job with this game. I think porting that idea to every single control mechanism that the Switch has, whether that be handheld or one Joy-Con or two Joy-Cons or a Pro controller or whatever it is you're using, it is going to work with Super Mario Galaxy, which is kind of like a miracle. It's amazing. I used the Pro controller pretty much the entire time until you, Steven, and some people in the Discord had said like, oh, you should try it with two Joy-Cons. It's night and day. You know, it's great. It's really good.
Yeah. It's I mean, and I think that's also like, I've said this about the Switch too. Like, I always forget that the Switch low key has like actually good motion controls and a touch screen. Like it has the gimmick of the Wii and the DS just like hidden in it. You know, I didn't even know the Pro controller had motion sensors until
neither did I until I tried.
It was kind of amazing.
Yeah,
but
it's awesome.
I guess,
it feels really, I gotta be honest, I was very surprised at how great it felt to do the motion stuff with the Pro controller.
I guess just to wrap up the intro, and I guess as we segue into Galaxy, I will say that like this collection is worth getting if you're as into Nintendo as we are, and if you either haven't played these games or you have and you want them on Switch. Like, they're good ports. It's a great time, you know, and I would say that it's a good collection. But that your enjoyment of it will depend on like your interest in the past, and also like how excited you were about a potential remaster. Right.
And if you're okay with them inserting Zant instead of Bowser into every encounter.
So long, Zant! Yeah. Cool. You wanna take a little bleep here and then jump straight into Galaxy, or do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Cool.
Goodbye. Talk to you in a second.
Let's go to space.
Wahoo.
Space. The final frontier. These logs are written by Zant and Mario as they explore the galaxy and meet the Kubrickian space princess Rosalina. Actually, though, I will say Galaxy, a huge Little Prince vibe. I never really, I remember maybe making that connection like fleetingly, but we'll get more into that, but I really like that. Super Mario Galaxy, it came out. We're going to start with this. We're going backwards, so we'll be doing Galaxy, Sunshine, and then 64 with our featured guest for each segment. Dom is our space prince, so he's with us right now. And Galaxy was the Mario game that came out on the Wii, 2007, I believe.
It is 2007.
And I think we're going to start by just kind of sharing our personal experience with the game when it came out and how we're enjoying it now in this collection. I'll go first because it's pretty short and sweet. I got Galaxy, I think, like when it came out. I remember playing it on Christmas Day, I think. This is a really nice Christmas Day game because it's just like just really pleasant. It's one of the more like relaxing Mario games. Like I think it's got a really nice orchestral soundtrack. It's got a really nice aesthetic even still. You know, like it has some Wii textures, but like it definitely, I mean, not a huge contest in this collection of what looks the best. But when I played it when it came out, I remember like kind of just like just binging it. Like I beat it in like a few days.
Yeah.
And then kind of moved on. So it's never been like, I'll talk more about my 64 experience later, but it's never been as kind of like earth-shattering and monumental as that felt at a young age. And it hasn't been as like ongoing as like Odyssey or Mario, 3D Mario Worlds has been, and that like I keep going back to them. Galaxy is just kind of like a really short and sweet vignette in my life. And going back to it, it's pretty much felt the same. And it's definitely, I think I feel kinder to it even though it wasn't like low on my list. I have a newfound appreciation for it, kind of seeing the direct history of like, okay, the only two games that preceded this were Sunshine and 64. So this was like a really interesting step for the series, I think. But I'd love to hear what you two thought about it initially and how you're feeling about it now.
Yeah, go for it, Dom.
Well, one thing I wrote down I wanted to mention to you guys, and this is not about Zant.
Zant has 8 tassels on his robe. And he's prone to temper tantrums.
So I don't know if you guys, do you remember this thing called Super Mario 128?
No, I don't know what that is.
So I mean, I love Mario games, and I always have. It's probably the series that I've played the most and thought about the most and enjoyed the most. I mean, there's something about the fact that like Mario is this strange like Italian mascot that speaks to me because I come from an Italian family. I don't really know why, because he might as well be anything. Because if anything, he might as well be kind of offensive to Italians, actually. But whatever, that's beside the point. So after Mario 64, you know, I'm obsessed with Mario games. I didn't have a GameCube. I tried Sunshine, and I am not one of those people that Sunshine like resonated with. Something about that game just didn't like sit well with me at the time. You know, every day in the early internet days, I'm logging online and looking up, you know, early days of IGN for new stuff about the next Mario game. And before Galaxy came out, there was this thing called Super Mario 128, which was like a tech demo that was shown at a developers conference. And I remember being so excited about it because it was leading up to what I thought was going to be the new Mario game. And then when it finally came out, it was just this very strange, I have a YouTube video over here I'm looking at. Like, it's a really, really weird presentation of hundreds of Marios running around on the screen on like a sphere.
Okay.
So you can imagine me as a little kid, I mean a teenager, so excited for the new Mario game, hearing all these rumors that it's going to be called Super Mario 128, and then just seeing like hundreds of Marios running around on a sphere and being like, what the fuck have I been looking forward to all these years? Like, what is this thing?
Yeah,
this is bizarre.
This is after 64 and before Sunshine?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, before Galaxy.
Oh, before Galaxy,
this
okay.
Is after, I'm sorry, this is after Sunshine, as far as I know. Oh, no, it's August 2000, so it was before Sunshine, right?
Yeah, a couple years before.
I just feel like it's worth bringing up because I remember being on these forums and seeing lots of Mario fans talking about Super Mario 128. But as they say, the tech in this demo apparently laid like the groundwork for a lot of the sphere stuff you see in Galaxy and a lot of like the dimensional stuff, I think. I mean, I just wanted to mention that because I thought it was a strange strange memory. And if you have time, I feel like it's worth looking at this tech demo because it's so Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's so
so it was
strange.
by Nintendo. It wasn't just like a fan thing. It was Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah. That's even better. Oh my God.
Yeah, looking at the Wikipedia right now, it says that this was apparently going to be originally the sequel to Mario 64.
Okay.
And then they ended up like ditching it and then moving on to,
Oh,
I guess,
yeah.
use this again for Galaxy years
So
later.
that,
But,
hence the 128. That makes sense.
yeah, what a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when Galaxy actually came out, finally, I mean, I love this game, guys. Like this is my big one, I think. In
Really?
terms of
This is like the
Nintendo
one for
game.
you.
Yeah, the more I think about it, and when I, revisited it these past 2 weeks that I've had it, it's just, I think they took it out of the draft that I wrote for Esquire. But originally I described it as, it's this sort of marvel of engineering that you look for or you hope for in every new video game you play. I mean, at least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
It's like the feeling of the game, and I don't think it's been captured in any subsequent Mario games or before this game either. It's like this very big feeling. That's what I love about it. It's like I described it as like returning to Disney World as an adult and finding that same like feeling in your stomach when you're on Space Mountain that you had as a kid. I mean, it's just such a huge, it has this feeling of like you are looking at this gigantic like grand thing. I mean, it's space, so it's very big.
Right.
I love how the levels like kind of stretch on infinitely, and all the textures are so beautiful to look at. And the game also has this feeling, since it has that orchestral soundtrack, which I think it's the first Mario game to have an actual orchestra.
Yeah, I think the soundtrack is a highlight for sure for this game.
Yeah, like everything is kind of moving together, and it's I feel like we look at Mario 64 as the big one for the series, but from my perspective, if we hadn't had Mario Galaxy, I think the series would be a lot different today, because I think it's the one that kind of like carried it to the next generation.
I agree with that. I mean, I think playing it again, I definitely feel a more foundational aspect from it. I don't know if I would highlight it quite as strongly, but I do think this is the modern foundation. Like this led to, of course, Galaxy 2, which a lot of people, that's their big one. That's like the kind of like the fan
I would
favorite.
describe, I'm sorry,
the collective.
two of them together.
No, I'm not big. Galaxy 2. No, I'm not.
Galaxy 2 is better, I would agree.
But the Galaxy, duo like definitely laid the groundwork for what they kind of did with 3D World, which was almost like a supercut of everything. And then that laid the groundwork for Odyssey, which like weirdly playing all these games has made me realize how much I love Odyssey. Like Odyssey to me is
me
like,
too.
but I think you're right. I think that like cause Sunshine is so literally in a different solar system than this game that like in terms of what they're trying to do, that Galaxy is the modern blueprint. I agree with that. My only real hangups with it are like, even though we highlighted that like the Switch offers such a variety of different controls for it, I still think that the motion controls don't really add anything. That's not a hot 2020 take. Like I think that
I agree.
It was on the Wii and they had to do something. So they're like, collect space gems to feed hungry Luma. It's like, it's just fine. It doesn't get in the way of it, but it does feel like they just kind of had to do it. I'm glad that like, and they have fun with it with the, like the way the game is structured is kind of like Mario 64, where like replace the castle with Rosalina's space base. And you have different, like, kind of almost weirdly, like, cyberpunk Victorian houses that show up. And those are, like, the hubs for the different levels you can choose from. And then, like Mario 64, there's a variety of goals you can select to get stars. And, but yeah, I just think the like level select aspects of it are very similar to 64, but it is focusing more on design over here's a giant open place to explore.
Yeah, I think that's the influence you get from Sunshine, right? Because like 64 was essentially you're just running around this castle and then jumping into paintings, and there's not really like a narrative reason why you're jumping into paintings. It's just like the way they decided that you were going to choose the level. It is actually incredible at all that in that game they decided that they were going to have some kind of like hub world for you to run around in, and not just like literally level select like what you would eventually end up with in 3D World and 3D Land on the 3DS. I think, Sunshine then took that a step further and said, what if you actually did have a reason to be running around this hub world, and not just jumping into paintings? And I think Galaxy...
If it's because Mario will go to jail if he leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the reason.
And then Galaxy takes that a step further and says like, okay, you're actually just trapped here, you know, and you're just exploring this thing that is like almost unknowable to you and will continue to be unknowable to you until you hear a bunch of Rosalina's stories, which I don't know how much we want to get into it. I would like to get into it a lot, but maybe it's too much of a bummer. It's real sad. The thing about this game that I find really fascinating is Dom, you were just talking about the bombast of the thing, and Steven, you were talking about the soundtrack. And I think those two things going together make it this like incredible, wild experience. Dom, you compared it to Disney World, which I think is perfect because I've been saying that to a lot of people as I've been replaying it recently. Yeah. It feels so much like Disney World in that you walk around Disney World and it's just this kind of like awe-inspiring place as you walk around, you know, just like Main Street and things like that. But then you wait online, you go into a ride, and the ride is where it gets like wild. Holy shit, I'm on Space Mountain. Holy shit, I'm visiting the Caribbean, and I there's pirates everywhere. Wild. Mm-hmm. And then you walk out of that, and then it's just quiet again. You know, there's just a bunch of people walking around.
That. And yeah, you're so right.
And that is what Galaxy gets at to me in a way that I absolutely was not expecting. I can't take full credit for this idea, but it's something that I've been definitely like diving into a lot and thinking about a lot as I've been playing it. Jacob Geller on YouTube has a great video about Mario Galaxy that I highly recommend you watch.
Yeah, I keep seeing that pop up. Is it called like this, the quiet of, or the sadness of?
Yeah, the quiet. I think it's called the quiet sadness of Mario Galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta watch that.
And it specifically dives into the opening of this game, which is Mario's going to the castle, and then suddenly Bowser shows up with an airship and literally is bombing the Mushroom Kingdom, and you know starts attacking the place, and you as Mario are just running around as these bombs are falling onto the Mushroom Kingdom, and then suddenly aliens show up from space and then cut a hole around the castle, and the aliens and Bowser in conjunction with one another pick it up and lift it into space, and Mario is stuck on this thing, and it's like the wildest. It's wild enough that Bowser's bombing the place, but then aliens show up and now you're in space. This is wild. And then suddenly it cuts to Mario waking up on a little tiny planet, and there's a little jingle that goes like da-na-na-na, and then you're just stuck on this little tiny green planet, and there's a rabbit there staring at you, and it's completely silent, and there's almost no music at all. And it's like that is the brilliance of this game to me, that moment, and then the way that continues to evolve as you jump into these wild planets and then leave, and you're back on the ship, and there's, you know, kind of just like a nice little jingle playing as you just kind of like explore this place that is dead, and you're bringing it back to life in conjunction with the story of Rosalina, which, as you learn more and more of it, is like extremely sad and gets to the Little Prince thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, the artwork is like very Little Prince, and that's, I think, like, I almost wish that was more in the spotlight, because it feels like the setup is like go save Peach, but then Rosalina is like telling a story, not even to Mario, but to all the Lumas. She's like, let's revisit my tragic backstory, and opens a book in the library. Yeah, that is, I think, the charm of the game too, because Little Prince is like they're both set in space, but it's set in space in a very dreamlike way. It's not Star Trek like I opened this segment with. It's very like you're just kind of flying around and exploring. And I think the idea of like the gravitational like pull of things and being on a planet is like really well done. That's like what this game, like the added dimension to, because I think, you know, you have the jump from Super Mario World to Mario 64 is dimensional. The jump from 64 to Sunshine is a fever dream. But then the jump from those two games to this is another dimension. It's you're adding, you know, like a rotary aspect to things, and you know, it's really, it just feels really good. I think this game also shines, like, I'm not as into the levels where they don't let you go into space. Like, there are some levels where it's like a big, like, I love the penguins, but like every water level in Nintendo sucks. Like, it's just bad.
I agree.
But like, I think it's best. Like I mentioned before off air, the Space Junk Galaxy is my favorite, because like the visuals of Mario like actually in space, and like thinking about like, how do I pull myself gravitationally to this new area? And the boss fights are also very clever. Like the first one is this like leg robot, and you can see like kind of gravitational arrows going up. And I think this game also does a great job of like this is a very out there concept to a lot of people. I think like even to people who have played a lot of Mario, like it's a lot to get used to. It's a little bit, it plays a little bit with like your sense of like depth and motion. It could be a little disorienting.
Yeah, it takes a long time. Well, not a long time, but it takes a while to get used to. Yeah. It's like it's a miracle that it works at all.
But the game appropriately tutorializes things. I was thinking about this. Like you can see a very different teaching style in these three games. Like 64 tells you nothing. It doesn't doesn't even tell you how to select the level. And I actually loved, as a kid, it was like so mysterious to discover, like, oh shit, I have to jump in the painting. Like I saw it wiggle when I was near it. Like, is that how I choose a level? That's insane. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Sunshine. Okay, I'll be honest too. I've just started Sunshine for the first time, and I'm enjoying aspects of it. But like the beginning is so bizarre, and it takes forever. Yes. It's like a 40-minute backstory. I was not expecting the flood water gun to talk. And it talks to you for like, it's literally like comparing like the beginning of Galaxy is like the beginning of Skyrim, where it's like, you know, exciting and boom and dragons and you're in. And the beginning of Sunshine is Morrowind. It's like, let's fill out like logistical paperwork and have a water gun tell you how to play the game. And it's like, that to me, like, I'm sure I'll enjoy it as I play it more. And you know, I'm excited for that segment because we have a friend, Don, who like loves that game. And I really want to hear why, because I'm so new to it. But it's that game, the tutorial gets so in the way of the fun. It like ruins the beginning of that game, in my opinion. Yeah. Whereas this game, like, it wants you to succeed at a really new idea, you know, and it sets you up for success in a very, like, it's a good middle ground between the nothing of 64 and the like encyclopedia of Sunshine.
Well, what I noticed playing 64 and then Sunshine is the speed and like the momentum. It changes a lot when you get to Galaxy. I mean, I was playing Sunshine with my partner who has not played many of the Mario games, and she was surprised at how slow it was. And it dawned on me, like, yeah, this is super slow. You're like crawling, you're trying to nail these very meticulous jumps. It's a very slow pace. You have to be very, like, you know, accurate and precise in the way you play it. And I think that's why Galaxy speaks to me a lot, because when I play games, a lot of the times I'm looking for speed and momentum. I mean, like, one of my favorite games, when I think I played it a lot in college, is that Incredible Hulk, like, destroy all the open world Hulk game where you can just like tear through a city and destroy everything.
Yeah, totally. It's a great game.
That's the kind of shit that, I mean, I get a lot of joy from doing that. So when a Mario game came out that was like, we're not going to make you try to like triple jump onto this tiny little beam at the top of the level to grab the star. This game is going to be, I mean, that's why I used the term earlier, like a marvel of engineering. And Brendan, you said it was like a railroad experience. And I think that's where it all comes together for me, that you are like running at like a super fast pace through these levels, and the game is engineered to have it kind of blowing past you. Again, it's kind of like Space Mountain, where like you're on a track, and if you stay on the track and you buy into it and you run at the speed that it wants you to, and it's set to that music, it's an incredible experience that like you don't really get from other platformers. And I don't think I've ever, except parts of Mario Odyssey. I mean, it is kind of like a roller coaster of a Mario game, which to me is like, that was the step this series needed to take. They needed to give it more momentum, because Sunshine is a drag. In a lot of ways, it is a drag to play. It's so fucking slow.
It's very different. It's got a very different intention. And I think it was like, you know, you have the same parkour mechanics from 64 in Galaxy. Like, I've gotten so used to the idea of like hitting Z before A to do that, like, woohoo!
Oh, I love that.
But like in Sunshine, it's like, you just like shoot water out when I do that instead. And I'm not trying to bash Sunshine, because I do want to give it more time.
Just shit on
but
Sunshine.
No, but I think it's worth comparing the two, because I think you're right that Sunshine is focused on precision. And it's focused on almost puzzle solving over like this kind of breeze of Galaxy, where it's like
platforming and joy and introducing new concepts and things like that. It's like, let's just see how much we can do with the flood system, essentially.
And I think it's informed by the times, because I think that Sunshine came out at a time where, like, it was 2002. I think the term sandbox was like the new novelty. So I think the idea of having a focus on the hub world and like that aspect of Mario was appealing for that time, you know, because that was also, you know, the Mario 64 castle and everything was the fully realized version of like the map in Mario Worlds, which we weirdly went back to in 3D Worlds. So I think it's not a coincidence that if you love Galaxy this much, you weren't as into Sunshine. And I could totally see why if someone didn't like Galaxy that they would love Sunshine, because it's doing something very different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really does seem like they're kind of different vibes for different people. Dom, I'm curious, as a person who loves Galaxy and Galaxy 2, how did you feel about 3D World on the Wii U?
I mean, I only tried it because you recommended it to me, Steve. I would never have gotten it normally because I felt really bummed out when I saw the announcement of like this. After everything that's happened with the Wii U, this is the Mario game they're going to do. Like, they're not going to give us a new platformer. They're not going to give us like a main series 3D Mario game. They're going to give us this weird thing. But then when I played it, yeah, it does have the quality of sort of like a celebration of Mario games, which I can appreciate.
Yeah.
But I will always dig like the 3D main series Mario games more than, to me, 3D World or 3D Land, whichever one, that to me is it stays in the line of like Super Mario World, New Super Mario Brothers. To me, like, I see that 3D falling into that series more than this series.
Interesting.
The
reason
we're both
I
like,
asked
you're wrong. It's me.
no. I don't think you're wrong at all. I mean, to keep the Disney World analogy going.
Sorry, that's so scary.
To keep the Disney World analogy going, I would consider, Super Mario Galaxy is a theme park and 3D World is just a park, right? There's no theme. It's removing the space concept from it, right? Like Galaxy, I think works as well as it does because space is infinite and unknowable and like kind of scary at times. And that's why there's endless possibility. That's why every planet you go to can be a completely new thing with new mechanics and new ideas and new creatures on it, right? 3D World, to me, feels like Nintendo saying, what if we took all the effort we put into like the overarching theme and just took that out completely and took all that effort and put it into just making like quick hit enjoyable experiences, that don't need to be linked literally at all.
Yeah, it's like an espresso shot of Mario. It's just like the finest, most condensed elements. Yeah,
exactly. And Steven, you and I were talking on the phone yesterday about Galaxy, specifically saying like there are moments in Galaxy where you're just getting into the level and then it ends. Which like is very much a Nintendo move. I think generally is like, okay, we're gonna give you this new thing, you're gonna love it, and then as soon as you want more, we're gonna move you on to the next one. Where I think 3D World succeeds is that part happens like 3/4 of the way into most of the levels, and then you're like, wow, this is amazing, I can't believe it, great, and then there's a conclusion, and then you move on to the next level. The thing about Galaxy, though, is that you're going back to that level over and over again, right? There are multiple stars to get there, there are secret stars to get there, so you do actually like get to revisit the thing that you loved at a certain point. But I do think that is the kind of interesting delineation between Galaxy and 3D World. I think they're trying to do very similar things. They're saying like, okay, space is infinite and you don't know what could be out there, so everything is out there and we're allowed to try literally anything that's on our minds and develop that into a world. 3D World is doing the same thing, but there's no reason behind it. There's no like core concept. It just is Mario.
I honestly too, like, I mean, you brought up, Don, that you consider 3D World not a mainline entry, but it's in like the new Mario Brothers universe. But 3D World was the mainline entry for the Wii U, and honestly, I blame that game's. I mean, it did well. It was a Mario game, but like in the critical discussion of Mario, I think that game is always lower than it should be because of how it's named. Like, truly, I think calling it 3D World and being on the Wii U is like you're immediately the opening band. Like, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, they were trying to evoke Super Mario World, right? They were trying to say this is the next big step for the franchise, and what they actually ended up doing was saying, yeah, you're the opening band for what is going to turn into Odyssey.
Right.
That's true.
But I mean, I think that I definitely, in playing Galaxy now, have even a stronger appreciation for it. And I do think you're right, Dom, that like it definitely like kind of recalibrated the series into a more exciting direction. Because you have like you have the book is closed on 2D Mario with Super Mario World. That is like I mean, I love Mario 3 as well, but that's like, okay, like we're adding Yoshi, which is not even something you ever thought was possible. We've added a lizard horse that has changed the game. And opening the new book with 64 and that's, I think, the thing that I'm like really receiving now, thinking about games as an adult and not as a kid, is like, this is a new dimension. Like the fact that these three games are as good as they are is a testament to Nintendo's forward thinking. And really, because I think that this is like, if you just look at these three games, 64 proved you could do Mario in 3D. Sunshine was a different take at the same idea. And then Galaxy like proved that there was a future for it. You know, it's a proof of concept in a trio, basically, which is kind of interesting to experience.
Something that I wanted to make sure I mentioned to you guys was, I think, again, like the momentum. I always go back to like momentum in Mario games.
Yeah.
I think the reason we play Mario games is because it's fun to like control Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think in Galaxy, it's like the fully realized version that you see in later games with all the mechanics that we love. I always think of, I'm a big fan of David Lynch, and there's this David Lynch quote about how he finally learned how to do a dolly shot. And you know, a dolly shot in filmmaking is the camera is on wheels and it rolls into something. So he said that, you know, for years, him and his production team were trying to figure out the perfect amount of weight to put on the dolly that would make it like go at a good enough speed that you could see what's going on, but also arrive at a stop at enough of like a pace that like doesn't feel like jolting. And I think about Mario like that like David Lynch discovered that if he put this certain size sandbag on his dolly, he got these perfect dolly shots that were heavy enough to go across. They stopped at the right speed and they felt like natural enough to like leave an impact. And that's what Galaxy feels like to me. Like they finally figured out, because you see how they're trying to figure it out in 64 and Sunshine. And then Galaxy, it's like you don't feel weightless. You feel weighed down. But gravity is still, you know, it's still there, but you are moving at such a good natural speed that you can just pick it up. And I mean, and then you see that in Odyssey, where you know how to control Mario because you know how much he weighs.
Yeah,
and it's so cool.
That's a really great observation, and that's something that we even see in the 2D ones. Like, there's a meter added in Mario 3 that shows like how much momentum you built up, and you can even feel it in 64, where like when you go forward, there's like a skipped beat, like he's like kind of getting ready to walk, and then kind of gets into a groove, and that's why I think Mario 64 is much better in the bigger moments, because when you're on narrow platforms, it's really hard to control him, you know, because he like gets so excited to start. You're like, dude, you're on a bridge, like chill. And in Sunshine, there's almost no momentum because you have the flood thing, which isn't bad, but it's so different that I can see why it is
literally a sandbag that's too heavy.
Yeah,
that he's wearing on his back.
And I think Galaxy found the right way, and Odyssey only one-ups Galaxy by being like, now you know how to control Mario. How do you feel about controlling everyone else? You know, you have the ability to throw your hat and literally control everyone else on the level, which is a brilliant, like, that's the only way to one up space is to be others, you know, like literally, like we've gone as far as a setting can go, but now, like, you know, playing as a lava ball or playing as a literally stack of steak, like the things you embody in that game are ridiculous. But I think you're right. I think Galaxy found the momentum, and gravity is such a central theme in that game that it's so important that they nailed it, and they did.
Yeah. It looks like timing wise, it might be time for us to wrap up this segment of the bonus episode. But Dom, I want to leave the last notes to you. Do you have anything else you want to say about Mario Galaxy?
Yeah, the one other thing I wrote down is I've been listening, you know, to your podcast all the time, and the last episode, I think, or one of the last ones that you mentioned 3D All-Stars in this Mario celebration, you guys were talking about what you think might happen after this game is not available anymore. And I think they're going to bring out Zant.
After 500 years, I'm free!
Yeah, everybody thinks next year being the 35th anniversary of Zelda is going to be a big, exciting time. They're going to re-release Ocarina and Majora's Mask. It's going to be... Yeah, nobody's thinking about the fact that it's Zant's 11th anniversary.
What I wanted, in all seriousness though, what I wanted to say is what I think you guys missed, and what no one is talking about, is Mario Odyssey came out on October 27th, 2017. I don't see why Nintendo would be against making a sequel to Odyssey.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly saying that maybe, on October 27th, all of a sudden Odyssey 2 is going to come out. But they made a sequel to Galaxy a few years after. I think the Odyssey format is a good format.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if at the end of this celebration, they're going to announce a sequel to Odyssey.
I think that's a great point. And the fact that Odyssey 2 is, you have this kind of mechanic of possessing others, you can really change it up by just adding new characters, right?
Yeah.
Or even, Odyssey takes, even though it has that kind of grand feeling of Galaxy, it is all on one planet. I think you can definitely expand from there. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Also, the fact that Odyssey is a little bit more focused on characters, that there are more like faces, the weird rabbits, like Spewart. I would love to see them come back. I think that'd be fun. I think you're right, but who knows? Again, it's Nintendo, so like
that's true. We have no idea.
But that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah,
they could release like Mario Darts. That will be the big
featuring Zent.
Something like Mario 35 or something. Like 35 Marios running around playing simultaneously. Who knows?
Mario 128.
Yeah,
we do know that 3D World is coming to Switch, and there's like a new part of it added, Bowser's Fury. Right. So there's that.
Oh, I think Bowser's Fury is also going to be a
Darts,
a Dark Souls.
You really feel the weight of Mario as he dodges out of the way.
I always keep thinking of texting you that, Steven. What if Bowser's Fury is a Dark Souls game?
You somehow find things to say that make me quiet. Like that's like your ultimate goal. Is like you stun me with Zant.
I would love an Odyssey too. I think one thing that I meant to mention in the intro and then also at the top of this and forgot is like, I've said this on the show before, but I'm a person who doesn't get excited about Mario games until I have one in my hands. Like they announce one, I'm like, okay, cool, Mario, great. And then I'm like,
didn't you say Galaxy? You weren't too into Galaxy, right? I heard you on one of the past podcasts.
Yeah, Galaxy I got, and then just kind of like Steven, I kind of played through it in like a blur, and then I don't really have a memory of it, which is why it's been so interesting to be playing it again. I have like almost completely turned around on it the more I've been playing it. I mean, I think a lot of it is just that I'm thinking about games in a different way than I was when I played it the first time. But yeah, Mario is such an interesting franchise for me, and it's why I'm so excited to be doing this bonus episode, because revisiting these now, having connections with them in the past, instead of something like Odyssey, which is like, I guess I'm excited for new Mario to come out, and then I get it. I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people talk about Breath of the Wild as like the big Switch game, but Odyssey, man, is so good.
Odyssey's an incredible thing.
Odyssey is so good.
Yeah.
For their respective franchises, I mean, I think like, I think with Breath of the Wild, you have simultaneously being like a reinvention of Zelda, also a celebration of Zelda, and a reinvention of a open world RPG. Like there's a lot more lightning bolts striking, I think. But you're right that like when you look at the Mario series and playing these games has made me realize how much I loved Odyssey, because that is really as close to perfect as you get. Like truly, I think for a 3D Mario.
I mean, Breath of the Wild redefined the sandbox, but in Mario Odyssey, you can be a meatball.
But that's the thing. I think that 64, Galaxy, and Odyssey are very invested in spectacle. They want you to feel like it's an adventure, and you definitely feel that in Odyssey. Even as like a late 20, early 30-year-old, like it feels like you're 7 again, and experiencing this new thing.
Yeah,
I love that.
Space
Mario Galaxy, a good video game. Mario 35th anniversary collection for the Nintendo Switch. It's good.
Thank you for joining us, Dom. Anything else you want to say? Pleasure. Anything you want to plug before we let you go back into the void?
Yeah, where can people find you on the internet, Dom?
You can find me on Twitter at Dominic Nero, and I'm writing a lot these days for Esquire, doing a lot of essays and stuff. So
cool.
Check me out on esquire.com.
Yeah, I love to
check out Zant just in general.
I'll once again plug your interview with Tony Hawk about the remaster for that. So it was really great. I love that piece.
I also want to plug your piece about Boys State, which is completely unrelated to video games, but was extremely good.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Whatever.
Cool.
Here
I go. Wahoo.
The indifferent. Here I go. Wahoo. It's great.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, Dom.
Okay. See you guys. Have a good day. Good luck talking about Mario for the next 12 hours.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you so much.
We're both growing mustaches over here, all right?
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Zant is tall, slender, being dressed in black. Baggy clothing decorated with turquoise twilight symbols on his sleeves. The sleeves of his robe.
Hello and welcome back to this very special bonus episode of Into the Aether. It's a low-key video game podcast. You already know that because you're over an hour and a half in probably at this point. We are now joined by my good friend, one of my best friends and a pro gamer, Pablo Marti. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. How's it going?
It's so great. I'm so glad to have you on the show. I haven't heard a lot of people, or I haven't seen a lot of people in general make Steven laugh as hard as you have in the past. So I'm just really excited to invite your particular brand of chaos onto the show to talk about Mario Sunshine, which is the second game that we're talking about from the Super Mario, was it 3D All-Stars collection?
Yeah.
And we wanted to bring you on specifically because this is the game that you were most excited about. This is the one that you were most amped to get your hands on, play again. Mm-hmm. So I think as we generally start with most stuff on the show, but particularly in this episode, just curious what your background is with Mario Sunshine and why this was so thrilling to get your hands on again.
Yeah, sure. So I think that for me okay, so very back to story or whatever. The first game I can recall playing on my own, none of that you went to your cousins and played this one video game on the NES. My first video game was Mario 64.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
But I was, 8, maybe 6.
So you had an N64 and you had Mario 64?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Wow. You were the cool kid in town.
Yeah, I was very cool.
I was still playing fucking Comic Zone on my Sega Genesis. Bubsy 1D.
I did I did have a cousin who only had 3 games on Sega, which was this kind of peep into the other world, because I also always had Nintendo.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
maybe we were secretly cousins, Brendan.
Pablo, you had an N64.
Yeah. So, flash forward, what is it, 6 years later when GameCube comes out? That was the thing. I wanted a GameCube so bad. I didn't get it when it came out on launch for Christmas, but I got it in February for my birthday, which ruled. That was sick. And then I got Sunshine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was
Such a good game.
Was it a launch title? Did it come out around the same time as the GameCube?
I cannot tell you.
I think it was a little later. I'm pretty sure Luigi's Mansion was the launch title.
Yes.
Was it really?
Yeah, and then because I think GameCube came out 2001 and Sunshine was 2002, if I'm correct.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was not a launch title, but very soon after.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of GameCube is summed up by the fact that Luigi got a head start over Mario, I think, in terms of their sort of creative direction and everything. And I think that identity also leads into Sunshine, because in Luigi's Mansion you had the vacuum cleaner developed by Professor E. Gadd, and they were showing off those big shoulder buttons that had that click. And same thing in Sunshine. You also developed by E. Gadd, connection there.
Yeah.
Plot-wise, lore-wise.
Whoa.
Yeah, weird that they were trying to
flood.
force Dr. or Professor E. Gadd into the Mario canon, because he doesn't really show up again after GameCube that much, except for the Luigi's Mansion stuff, right?
Yeah, they really wanted him to stick around, but alas. Anyway, Pablo, so you got this, your birthday, you had GameCube finally, and Sunshine was sort of the ray of the future with it. So how did that go?
Oh, man. It's hard to put into words how much I love that game and think about being in that era of gaming. I think that for me, the GameCube is the golden age of game. Personally, everything that I love about video games is from that era. Wind Waker, Sunshine, those are the only 2 games that are good.
No, but it was the generation that seemed to resonate with you the most. I mean, you're also at that age where you're able to have a little bit more agency in what you're consuming, Mm-hmm. I totally understand that.
Yeah, it's that 10 or 11 years old kind of you're first starting to really form your own opinions about the stuff that you're doing. You're
yeah, exactly.
deciding what is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, being on the beach forever is kind of very good. So,
I'm just thinking back
jumping
to.
into art. I want to go on the beach.
I'm just thinking about when the GameCube came out. I do remember, I think Rogue Squadron, that Star Wars game, was also
my
one of the
God.
launch titles. And I remember being at somebody's house and seeing Rogue Squadron for the first time. And I still had only the Sega Genesis. And I was just like, this is
Gaming.
wild. Yeah, this is, that's what I said.
This is gaming.
I was 10 years old. I went, this is gaming. I looked right at the camera when I said it. And the audience went wild.
Sweetie, how was your sleepover? Epic. And then you went into your room.
So Mario Sunshine, is this your favorite Mario game? It doesn't have to be, but is it?
the long story is no.
That's a short, long story, my friend.
Yeah, I know, right? I have a fear, and I think my fear is that Galaxy is going to be my favorite game. The big caveat is that I've only played one level, our dear friend Christina's house, like 10 years ago. And I was like, this game rules.
Yeah.
But didn't have a Wii, didn't have the means to get a Wii at the time, so it just never happened.
Yeah.
Now I own it, and I'm putting it off for as long as possible because I know that I'm going to play it, and then 10 years are going to go by, and I'm like, oh, the rest of my life happened. But
It's going to be like the Woody and Buzz scene where like you're playing around with Galaxy and there's like a dusty copy of Sunshine and like,
Yes.
you know, with your name written in marker on the back and Randy Newman is singing.
If there's one thing I do know about you, it is that you really do take your times with the games that you pick up, or you take your time with the games that you pick up generally. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you're like, I'm going to finish all of Sunshine first before I get to Galaxy. That totally tracks for your vibe. That said, Steven, how about you? What's your Sunshine
Me?
history? Yeah, you.
I missed this game somehow. So here I am. I got my version of that because I'm a few years older. So like I had that, I think, Sunshine moment with 64 where like, you know, I had Mario World when I was younger because my older sister had the consoles. She was the gamer, you know? Yeah. And I was just sort of a baby that was near. But then when I became sentient, I was like, oh shit, this is what I like. This is what I want. Getting that kind of early life agency.
Yeah.
With GameCube, I'm with you, Pablo. I really like GameCube for Nintendo specifically. I mean, that generation overall for everyone is very interesting. So you got the first Xbox, you have PS2, which is definitely like Sony's peak, you know, in terms of just overall library.
watch out, gamers.
That's
Takes coming.
That was a Cupid arrow to my heart. I was mid-thought. Watch out, gamers just fucked me up.
I'm sorry.
No, please. That's why we have you on. You're great. And GameCube, I think, was Nintendo being like, because the 64 was truly like, it's obvious, but it's truly worth remembering. Like that was them trying to translate all their games into a new dimension. You know, it's amazing that system is halfway as good as it is because it's they had to rethink everything.
Yeah.
So GameCube kind of is a big step forward, you know, in the graphical quality, but like I think they really had to think about like, well, how do we keep things fresh? Because I think at that time especially they hadn't yet fallen into the let's just keep doing the same thing pitfall yet. They were still like, how do we change this up?
Right.
So a lot of their games,
they were also simultaneously in this weird space where they were like almost kind of still trying to compete with Sony and with Microsoft a little bit. Like
graphically, yeah.
when the
yeah,
GameCube
totally.
came out, it was like, oh yeah, third-party developers are also going to have their games come out on GameCube. They're going to be on all three consoles, you know, where like I think very quickly everybody realized that the GameCube just like wasn't up to snuff there, just like wasn't powerful enough. And that is like the last time that Nintendo really tried doing that.
Yeah, I mean, when the Wii tried to do that, it was like, you know, last minute motion controls and it looked like it was unrendered, you know, so it's like,
and then the launch titles for Wii U, because you had like Batman Arkham City that had like some weird stuff with the gamepad. But like really, I think this is kind of the end of Nintendo trying to play ball with everybody else and like more just kind of beating its own drum in that way.
Yeah, so in terms of like what I got on the GameCube, remember I got Luigi's Mansion and Melee when it came out, and that was like that kept me occupied for a while. I remember I really liked Luigi's Mansion, and more on that later because there's a lot of vacuum parallel happening here. But for whatever reason, I don't know why I didn't get Sunshine, and I'm not sure because like I got every other like first party game I even had the weird Star Fox Dinosaur Planet. So like you know, a lot of the first party GameCube stuff was like big deviations from tradition that either like really paid off or really didn't. So you had Wind Waker, which I'm with you, Pablo, I think is like one of my favorite Zeldas. and it really it both narratively and mechanically kind of changed things and was almost it was the first Zelda, at least in my, if memory serves, that called on past entries. Like it referred to the events of Ocarina like in the game. It was the first time that had happened, other than Majora's Mask, which like was a direct sequel. But like this is the first time that a game took place like in a different era, and they were still calling out old games. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because I think that kind of GameCube vibe is very present in Sunshine. But I missed it when it originally came out. I always wanted to play it. And that was actually something that I was really excited about with 3D All-Stars. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting two of my favorite Mario games in one package and the one I never got. And that's also one that's never been re-released. Like at least with 64, you have the DS port.
Right.
And Galaxy is like, recent enough that it's not like a super hard game to find. And you can play it on the Wii U if you still have one of those.
Yeah.
What's that?
One of those old things.
The thing collecting dust in my ottoman that opens up for some reason?
The thing that mutters "kill me" whenever I'm here. Yeah, that's my Sunshine experience, and I'll save my current experience with it once we have all gone. So Brendan, what's your Sunshine history?
Yeah. So I just didn't play it, man. It was like it was the game that I would want to like watch my friends play when I went to their houses, because you would go to their house and they'd be like, it's a single player game, you can't play, but you can watch if you want, and then just,
man,
like,
I did that to my friends, but with Oblivion, and they were just like screaming at me, like, please, they're like, stop just talking to people, fight someone, stop doing alchemy,
stop sleeping until you memorize the days of the week. How many times do you need to see the word Turdus before you memorize it?
Steven, junior prom is tomorrow. We've got to think about things. Turdus.
You haven't asked anyone yet.
I'm busy.
I'm busy. It's Turdus.
I'm so happy it's Turdus.
Anyway, yeah, so that was kind of my experience with Sunshine, was I just like watched other people play it all the time. I was really stoked. I got a DS like right when they came out, and I got Mario 64 and played that, and that was kind of my like, I would say, big entry into the 3D Mario stuff, because before that I'd really only played whatever was released on the Game Boy or Game Boy Advance. So that is actually how I went back and played like the history of Mario stuff. Originally was like Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on the Game Boy Color, and then all the like Super Nintendo re-releases on Game Boy Advance. But eventually I got a Wii, and that's how I played Galaxy, and that was like, from that point on, I was just kind of like head over heels for Nintendo stuff. So GameCube is weirdly, as a whole, this like weird, just kind of like this black hole of Nintendo that I like didn't really get to interact with or check out. And I've like tried to dip my toes in here and there. I actually bought a GameCube used from GameStop like years ago. It was like $40, and it came with a controller and a memory card, which was wild. But then the real struggle was trying to get your hands on the games. Yeah, because they're all so expensive and they don't make them anymore, and nobody ever turns in a copy of Mario Sunshine. So I just couldn't find one. But that is how I went back and played stuff like Wind Waker and other things. I'm trying to think of what else. Melee is the big one. I wanted to get like a physical copy of Melee.
Donkey Konga,
things like that. Which, there are hundreds of copies of Donkey Konga used in the GameStop. Anyway, so yeah, GameCube is just this weird, like, kind of this like missing link for me. I loved the GameCube whenever I visited friends' houses who had them, and like always deeply wanted one. But I was a PS2 kid, man. I had Spider-Man, and I had Ultimate Spider-Man, and I had Spider-Man 2. So like, I was good on my end. But yeah, I also, like you, Steven, this is the game I think that I was most excited to check out and like finally put some real time into and like kind of understand and see where it comes from. And I think that now is kind of a good place to transition a little bit into like the vibe that this game has, I think, amongst just like the zeitgeist, which is that it is like the bad one, which is wild. This is the one that people say is like probably the weakest, especially of these three, that are in this collection. People are like, oh yeah, this is kind of like the weird redheaded stepchild of the other ones. But it's the one that I was most excited to check out, mainly because we had just played Galaxy for the first part of this episode. It's worth noting we're recording these, multiple days later, so we have time to play the games and stuff in between. But we had played Galaxy, and Steven, you and I had played all three a little bit before we recorded that, but like I hadn't really dug deeply into Sunshine yet, and neither had you. And 64 is one of those games that like I know so well that I kind of don't really need to play a lot. I mean, I'm going to after this, but I didn't really need enough. But what I learned by playing a bunch of Galaxy in this collection and then playing a bunch of 64 in this collection is like 64 has a lot of camera issues that are really hard to kind of work around. It's especially difficult, I think, now with like modern sensibilities. Like the one thing in that game that doesn't age that well because it's like the first time it ever happened. It's like the invention of a user controlled camera. Like, of course, it's not the best. But it's like the one thing that doesn't age well, and it's a little bit rough, and there are like a couple things here and there that don't feel like super great, but on the whole, 64 ages like surprisingly well and still plays really well. Galaxy also plays wonderfully and is an incredible game, and we just waxed poetic about it with Dom, but the thing that really struck me about playing Galaxy is like they really ham-fisted a lot of Wii motion stuff in there. There's like a lot of, if you're playing on handheld, touching the screen, which like isn't intuitive and doesn't feel good. If you're playing with a Pro Controller, it's like weird to do the motion stuff with a Pro Controller. The only way it kind of feels good is with the Joy-Cons, one in each hand. And like even that is like, okay, you can tell that the game wasn't built for this, but they've kind of figured out a way to make it work. So there's a lot of that happening in Galaxy, and Sunshine is the one I was most looking forward to playing because on the GameCube, that thing just released with a GameCube controller. It was just a normal gamepad. That's all it was. So now I'm playing this one again with just a normal gamepad in my hands. Like I'm playing it almost exactly the way it was made. It's not the invention of a new kind of video game, and it's not and it's not trying to do some things, or it's not built around some ideas that the Switch doesn't also contain. So it's kind of the most native one, weirdly, in this trifecta, which I thought was really exhilarating. And I've been having a really interesting time with it. It's a really, I think, good game. I do understand where some of the criticisms are coming from, but I want to hand it over to you, Pablo, the big fan, before getting into any of that stuff deeper. But I will say that I'm having a really fun time with it, and I'm like so glad to be able to finally play it now. But anyway, Pablo, what's up? What do you think of Sunshine?
Yeah, if anyone thinks it's bad, they should tweet at me.
What's your Twitter?
No, it's Danger Butts.
Yeah.
More on that later.
Okay.
So part of, I think, my love for this game is that I lost it for like 7 years. For the last 7 years, like I played it a lot as a kid, and then there's the like high school where I'm like, oh, I don't play GameCube games anymore. I play Xbox games and Halo.
I'm cool. Junior Prom is tomorrow. I'm cool.
And then I lost. I lost my train of thought. I lost my copy. And like we were saying before, finding a copy is impossible, or it has to cost $70.
Yeah,
which I could not afford for a very long time. But then finally I could, and now I can get 3 games. Amazing. Amazing.
This rules.
So coming back to it was so nice. It was the beach vacation that I wasn't able to take this year.
Yeah.
And
I'm feeling that in a big way. It's super where you're coming from. Yeah.
I mean, the whole vibe of the game is that the Mario, Peach, and their Toad friends are going on vacation. I want to know a little bit more about that. But
yeah, this strange, like Sully-esque Professor Toad is like, like it's so strange. Well, yeah, I have so much to say about the story of this game. I'm gonna keep quiet for now. But okay, yeah, there's the bizarre old Toad with them.
Yeah, that guy. What's up with that guy? So I don't know. It felt like going back home after being away for a couple of years, where you or maybe like a decade, where you like walk into the house, you're like, oh, that's where that painting was, and I remember this staircase being weird with this one stair being creaky, and the flood talking to you for some reason, and all the like Delphinians.
Delphino. Oh yeah, I guess Delphinoceans.
I love Delphinoceans.
Dolphin Oceans.
If that's not canon, then it's our canon.
Yeah.
All the Dolphin Oceans, like the I don't even, like papaya looking ass people. The game is like pure happiness to me. It's just a shot of pure like serotonin just straight into my brain, and it's perfect and exactly what I needed. It's in the year of 2020 September.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that return to a beloved setting, like you described it as going back home. I mean, I think that's something that can really make going back to older games so enjoyable. Like if you have that kind of unconscious association. I feel that way with Ocarina of Time, where like if I pick that game up now with no prior memory,
oh my God,
figuring out how to find the sword and the shield would be like really unintuitive and frustrating.
Yeah.
But I
Absolutely.
know like it's like waking up to me, and I'm back Kokiri Forest, and it's so nice. And yeah, I mean, I think I guess to sort of add like my observations about the game, like I think the setting is definitely worth pointing out. I think that's probably the best thing about the game is like, you know, Mario so often before and after this is this kind of sampler platter of settings. Even Galaxy, which is in space, is like, this is the forest planet, this is the junk planet, this planet's made of cake. You know, like it's not really, you seldom actually do feel like you're in space, because usually the levels have a different vibe, unless you're, you know, on Rosalina's space, then it's very clear. But with Delfino Plaza, and even with the levels that you find within Delfino, it is all summer vacation. And I think that is really enjoyable, and something that I tweeted that I think kind of to me sums up the entire game, both the things you can criticize and the things you can really highlight, is that this to me is Nintendo's direct response to Banjo-Kazooie. You know, I think Mario 64 came out and set the foundation for a 3D platformer, and then later on in the 64's lifespan, Rare came out like with their own kind of twists on that idea.
Yeah.
And Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64 both are games that are less interested in platforming and more about exploration and more about like using tools to overcome the environment. So I think that's what Mario Sunshine is really going for 50% of the game. I think there's still part of this game that really does still want to be a Mario game, and sometimes I think in the moments that I'm more critical of, those two parts are at war with itself. But I do think that the charm of the setting and the vibe of the setting is really nice, despite the sometimes nightmarish cutscenes. I do
love the just the like continuity in the world in this game. I think is really striking for like GameCube era. You know, whenever you're in one level, when you look out at or across the ocean or whatever, or like if you kind of get yourself situated in a nice spot, like on top of a tree or like on a like weird little cliff or on top of a building, you can see the other levels, and they like actually kind of look like where they should be based on if you just took the Isle Delfino or the Delfino Plaza and just kind of like mapped each of those points out to a larger island. It all looks like spatially relevant and like where it should be, and I think that's a really fascinating thing, this idea that like you take something like Mario 64, which is you're jumping into paintings, and each of those paintings are their own little world, I guess is kind of the idea, their own little like self-contained worlds. And just like explore that and see how that goes. But at the end of the day, like it's really just the castle as your hub, and that's the real place that you are. You know, none of the other places are real; those are just in paintings. Isle Delfino being like, no, you're actually jumping through little wormholes that take you to other parts of the island. And that by the time you get like, I don't know, halfway into this game, you actually do have like a pretty good idea of what the island as a whole looks like in your head. Is really interesting, and it does feel like we're taking what we were doing in Mario 64 and just like kind of plussing it up a little bit. You know, it does feel like they are trying to one up themselves. But you know, outside of setting, I think, you know, being wonderful, that's where you get into the stuff that I think people criticize, right? Like the Mario movement system, as I don't know, as we've seen in pretty much every single game except this one, is like so finely tuned and finely crafted, and like things down to the single, double, and then triple jump, the like backwards jump, the side jump, things like that are like so ingrained. Like people don't even know that they have names in a lot of instances, because they just like, it's like riding a bike. Whenever you pick up a new Mario game, you just like know intuitively those moves exist. almost, and a lot of them don't exist in this game. And it's wild to think that they just threw them all out in the second one. You know, they were just like, they had them all like down pat perfect in the first game and then just kind of get rid of them. And then every once in a while in this game, they get rid of the Flood backpack and then suddenly you have everything again. It's like, oh yeah, this is a cool game. This would be interesting. And then that game just turned into Mario Galaxy essentially.
Yep.
Which is fascinating. So I do see where you're coming from, Stephen, where you're saying that the game is kind of like at odds with itself in a lot of instances because it is really kind of trying to be a sequel to Mario 64 and also be something else simultaneously. And I haven't played enough Banjo-Kazooie to really like fully sign off on your hot take, but I imagine it's probably correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's the biggest thing. You know, I like this game. I definitely would say here's the deal with Mario. Like, every Mario game is going to be fun. So, like,
exactly,
this is the same situation with Skyward Sword, where, like, that's also lower on the list. But, like, if you named Sunshine and Skyward Sword, like, Stinky's Day Off or something, like, it would be a cult favorite. You know, like, it would have,
yes.
like, if it wasn't attached to this IP, people would be like, bring this back. Here's a $2 million Kickstarter to bring back Stinky's Day Off. You know, like, it would. Yeah,
I totally agree. That is such a good point.
Because I think that I even kind of gave you like the headspace of like play this like a rare game, because if you go from Galaxy to this game, I think you're going to be extremely frustrated. And I have to say, I find a lot of this game very frustrating because I want to love it, and I do in a lot of moments. And it's kind of funny. It's ironic because, you know, the villain is Shadow Mario, who is revealed to be Bowser Jr. pretty early on. Spoilers. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a spoiler at this point.
It's so bizarre. He calls Peach his mom. Anyway, that aside, we'll explore that later, maybe. You're walking around with your Flood, the water backpack. You can either use like a jetpack to kind of propel yourself up, or you can just spray things. I think the biggest thing that like really gets in the way constantly for me is the fact that like to spray things, you have to stop. And like, to take a Mario game and have you like have to just full stop to do something that's truly not that interesting, really, especially early on. Like, this game begins with Mario going to jail, and like as a punishment they give him the Flood, and like both narratively and mechanically, Flood feels like a punishment the whole time. Like, it has some fun moments where like they have puzzles where like if you water things, like stairs might grow, and that's where it gets into the kind of Banjo-Kazooie like, oh, what if I tried this with that and what happens? And then there are secret parts of the level where Shadow Mario, Bowser Jr. in disguise with his magic bib, shows up and steals your Flood, and the game wants you to feel like, oh no, my Flood, and every time I'm like, thank fucking Christ, throw that thing in a pit. I never want to see that thing again. It talks to me, it tells me shit that doesn't matter, and when I need help, it's silent. And the dream sequences are really not only like finely tuned Mario levels, but they're really tough. And this game's difficulty is like so wild and so like
it's
off
all
the
over
charts
the map,
in moments.
Man. It's
like, there's a level,
bizarre.
like honestly, there's a level where I almost threw my Switch outside. And like, I play Celeste a lot. Like, I play a lot of very demanding platformers.
Oh, you're a gamer.
I hate that. That is kind of how I was sounding, wasn't it?
No.
But there's a level where like there's a bird made of sand blocks and it's flying in the sky. You have to deal with real wind, kind of always blowing you slightly back. It's flapping its wings.
In real life, wind shoots out of the Nintendo Switch.
It might as well just throw wind and sand in my face while I'm playing, because I don't know how to beat this thing. You still have your stupid Flood backpack and you just can't do it. Like, I tried everything. I know people have done it because they have progressed and finished the game and liked it, but it's just like that moment is asking you to play the game but not giving you the mechanics to play it, because you had the Flood, and the way it registers what types of jump you're doing are like very finely tuned, like one joystick, certain angles. So you're trying to tiptoe, but you end up doing backflips. Yeah. It's a nightmare. And the jetpack might as well not be there because you can't get back on once you've fallen because of the wind.
Right.
There's a lot of moments like that where I'm like, this feels like it wasn't, like, again, Mario standard, very high. It doesn't feel like everything was thought through. And I actually do know that this game was rushed. So like, I think you can feel that in some moments, but this Mario Sunshine goes hand in hand with like a lot of NES sequels where like they did Mario Brothers. Mario 2 was the Doki Doki reskin, like completely different. Zelda 2, like it doesn't always work. This feels like that idea where they're trying something new. And this is way more successful than those older games. But I almost wish they committed to being either Banjo-Kazooie or Mario Galaxy. And if the FLUDD is going to be such a main component, I wish like it had more versatility than just like stop what you're doing and face this. It's just a lot. It's just a lot to ask of the player to enjoy when it's posed as a punishment, both narratively and mechanically. That's my small rant. I don't want to be an angry gamer for this segment, but just had to get it out.
Well, hold on. So you're wrong. And I'm hurt emotion. No,
I really hope you're not.
No,
I don't want to get too worked up. I was getting into it for the bit.
That was the first thing I've noticed was like the getting back into the game. I was like, oh right, I love being in this house. And then walking over and doing the first unlock of the first level that you get and trying to like sit there and spray this dumb plant in this dumb mouth and going like, why do I have to like stand still, hold L1 so I can like control the up and down of the FLUDD and just like sit here and like just wait? Felt boring. Like that like those parts of the games are the weakest. And I agree with you. Like playing them back now, I am surprised of how much I still love this game, even though those mechanics feel...
I mean, I totally agree. I'm sorry to cut you off, Pablo. There's so much to love here, too. It's just like, it's a bummer that the central mechanic is kind of the divisive one. That's like really what comes in the way. But like you said, I mean, I think there's so much like, and it is so unique to itself. I think you can see a direct trend between 64 and Galaxy, like in terms of like them refining certain ideas. And this feels really like, you can see a little bit of like them trying something else, but it really is like a brand new experiment. And it's cool to be part of. It's cool to experience this collective history, which is like kind of as we do this episode, what I'm realizing is like these three games are really cool to experience together as well. Like if you're interested in the history of Mario and of Nintendo.
Right. Like, I feel like a lot of people really like 2D Mario games, and please don't hate me, but I've played maybe one which is the original NES Mario game, and like that's the only 2D platforming Mario game that I've played. And like my love for Mario comes from all the 3D games, like specifically 64 and Sunshine, and eventually Odyssey. Everything I like when I think about Mario, I think about those games, Sunshine and 64 specifically. So I find it interesting to have that kind of difference between you and me specifically, Brendan, like where I feel like you were talking earlier about all the 2D games, and I'm like, oh, actually,
that's definitely like the kind of proving ground for me and Mr. Mario in the past. Like that's definitely where I started to gain an affinity for. I think just a recommendation: hop on the Nintendo Switch Online thing and get Super Mario All-Stars, the original Super Mario All-Stars on the SNES collection. You're gonna have a really good time, I promise you. But anyway, that is I think a good point. Yeah, playing these three simultaneously is really interesting, and seeing how this one kind of stands out as like at least they're trying something new and interesting, and they do that every time. It's not like they're not doing something new and interesting, but this is such a deviation from everything else that I think it's like almost jarring. But it is like as soon as you kind of get your feet under you and you start to figure out the controls and really kind of like start to buy into what they're trying to do, it really clicks, and it does become, like you were saying, Pablo, just like an unstoppable, joyous time. It at times, there are frustrating moments, I would say also.
I say it feels like being a kid on a playground. Like you have this world and you can literally you can do the mission, or you can just go explore the weird windmill on the first level, and you're like, oh, what's up here? Like, why can I go up here? Even though the point of this thing is to go fix this bridge.
Right. Totally. Yeah. The emphasis on exploration in this game is really cool. I've been having a really interesting time with it. Just kind of like going around and talking to NPCs that are like tucked away in strange places, like just to see why, and even if the dialogue is like, one sentence and it's like not even that interesting, like I'm still glad I did it in a lot of instances. And usually they give you a blue coin anyway. So like whatever, which like is a whole other thing. There are a bunch of blue coins that you can collect, but they don't tell you how many you can collect or how many there are total, which is very funny. funny. But they do make you save your game every time you get one, as if you're going to get something at the end. And I did look it up, and you don't get anything for collecting all of them anyway. Very silly. I do know what you mean, Steven, when you say that this game was rushed, because it definitely does feel like it at times. I mean, there are just some things mechanically that do feel a little bizarre. And I think like the stopping and shooting water is like chief among my like biggest question marks about this game. I will say, if you're out there and you have this collection and you're playing it and having a hard time with it, it requires a lot of inputs. But what I would recommend doing anytime you have to like stop and aim the flood at something to shoot it with water, I would recommend clicking the right stick in, because that brings you into kind of a first person view where you can kind of just move the analog stick around. It helps so much. I don't know why it helps a lot. But it sure does. It kind of gives you like an almost Gears of War, like over the shoulder feel of Mario. You can active reload, so the water does more damage. Anyway, I would recommend doing that. But it's been really interesting. Just kind of bumping up against that stuff and also loving the setting as much. I mean, the cohesion in the world and in the vibe is like so great. I mean, down to like the very first guy that you can talk to in the very first level is this dude who's just like sitting there and he has big sunglasses on. And he's like, hey man, you look like you could use some of my sunglasses. Yeah, I don't know. Hang out on the island a little bit more and come back later and I'll give them to you. And I don't know when he's going to give them to me or if he ever does, but I do love that this guy was like, I'm going to give you some sunglasses, and then kind of decided not to. Like, I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah. You got to chill out more before you get these sunglasses.
Yes, exactly. I wasn't chill enough. That was the problem.
I think, too, it's worth pointing out, and this is like a silly detail, but I think it does inform the entire identity of the game. This is the one 3D Mario where it's not stars. Like, it's like the one thing where the thing to collect, it shines. And I do like that. It seems like the more you get, because like Delfino Plaza is like in darkness in the beginning, or in shadows. And the more you get, the more different areas start to light up. So it has that kind of like, I'm a sucker for that, like repairing a hub world feeling, you know?
Yeah.
That's very present, obviously, in Breath of the Wild as a whole, but like other games do that as well. And I think that kind of weirdly, like, again, going back to your painting this game as a return home, Pablo, like you feel that way when you go back into the world map, you know, more than you do like in 64. The castle is very mysterious and very like, it's still very mysterious. That's like my favorite thing about that game is that like element of discovery, but it never feels safe. I'm always like kind of creeped out.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas Delfino is like, oh, I'm back. I can run around. I can even, talk to Peach and Old Toad and just hang out. It's great.
Yeah. It does feel that way. It really does. It does feel like relaxing and kind of like there's a deep exhale every time you leave.
Right?
We talked in the Galaxy section a little bit about how, you go into Galaxy and it's this big bombastic, holy shit thing. There's the orchestrated music and there's star bits falling all over the place and exploding, and you're fighting a big fucking boss, and you jump from one planet to another and you have to like grab onto a star that's floating out in the middle of space, and it's wild and it's wild and it's wild, and then you leave and then there's like no music and you're just chilling out on this like kind of sad space base in between, as you just kind of like take your breath and think about the stuff that you did and like mentally prepare yourself for what's coming next. But there's like a melancholy to that. There's like a melancholy to hanging out on the space base. Whereas in Sunshine, it's the same deal. Like you're going in and there's kind of like an exciting place, but like it's still kind of chill, but like you're going to do an exciting thing at a chill place. And like it's going to take you a while to go get to that exciting thing. And then once you do and you get there and it's great and you get the star and holy shit, I can't believe I did it. I pulled it off. I beat the fucking sandbird finally somehow. And then you get kicked out of that level and you're back in the Al Delfino in Delfino Plaza, and you just get to sit down and be like, wow, I did that. That was cool. And then you're just chilling out in the sun and you run around, maybe you pick up a durian and throw it in a basket and like, sick. It's great. It's a great vibe always. It's a great vibe always. That's what's good about Mario Sunshine.
I did already have an affinity for the setting though, because it's one of my favorite levels in Smash. So like I knew this theme well.
Yes,
it was really fun to hear it in the game.
Oh, the music! All the music in this game is amazing. Like fantastic. I think about the like Jacob Collier version, like even before Jacob Collier existed, of the like main theme in those secret levels, like the acapella.
Yeah, those are so cool.
With the reharmonization and like the like different like things that they're doing to the theme of the song to make it more interesting. Like every time I would go into a secret level, I would just get another rush of like I could like feel the like happiness just like
those are the best
me.
parts. And I think it is like, because I think a lot of people have pointed out that like the secret levels are just what Galaxy is. Like it's like they took that idea, put it in space and ran with it. But I think there is something special about them being like little discoveries. I think that if you play this game, give it up until you go to a secret level for the first time, because then you'll know if one of these games is working for you. Like that's kind of my thing, is like you'll enjoy one or the other. And I just wish there was more cohesion, but there's so much to like here. And I think that the frustration on my end just comes from like, I want this to be my favorite, because I think like I always love games that take the most risks, but it's also important to remember that like this is why some risks don't pay off, and to see why and to learn why and to see the ones that did. I mean, I think there's a lot to learn from this game still for Mario. I think Odyssey, I think, almost kind of reeled back into a Sunshine vibe with the fact that you would go to these worlds and they were open. So like I said earlier, Pablo, you can go and do the mission, or you could talk to the skeletons and buy a hat, like you can do kind of anything you want. And it had that feeling of being alive. But of course, the thing is like, and I think the direct contrast is that in Odyssey, you're like running around parkouring everywhere, and in Sunshine, you have to do community service. So you have to wear the flood backpack. But yeah,
it's wild too, because you immediately are exonerated, right? Because it's revealed like not even that far into the game that Shadow Mario is a thing that exists. So like already it's like, oh, there's an evil imposter Mario.
Yeah.
Okay, we can get rid of the flood backpack. You're good. You don't have to do this anymore. But not only that, but then it's very quickly revealed after that Shadow Mario is baby Bowser, or Bowser Jr. So even more reason to exonerate you in this case, even more reason to get the flood backpack off you, but you are stuck with it.
Yeah. And it talks. I wasn't ready for it to talk. I had no idea. Like, it kind of looks like a bird.
Mario.
Yeah.
Mario.
Yeah, it says that at the, like, there are a lot of times in this game that I don't know what to do, truly. I'm like, where do I go? I don't know. And that's kind of the beauty of it. You discover it. But when he decides to talk, as I alluded earlier, is bizarre. Like, I was on monkey bars climbing around, and he's like, Mario. And he's like, you can climb on them. I'm like, I'm doing it right now, dude. Really bizarre. But yeah, I mean, the game opens with like a court scene when they think it's you, and like I love this game's interpretation of how that works, because seemingly Peach is your lawyer, because like they're like, you crashed into Delfino and sprayed goopy haunted graffiti everywhere, clean it up. And Peach goes like, I object. And the judge just goes, overruled. Like, and like it's like lit like a off-Broadway Sondheim musical. Yeah. It's just so bizarre. And it's like 20 minutes. I mean, it's in retrospect art, but it's so like, again, compare the opening to Mario 64, where it's like Lakita's like, hey, I'm filming, I'm a new camera, goodbye. And then it's just birds chirping.
Welcome. I have a narrative reason for a mechanic existing.
And this game is like, they really have to explain why you're doing this, but it's so silly. It's very fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, like that stuff makes me crack up. So I'm glad it's there, but it is like haunting. Like it's so weird.
It is extremely good. I mean, there's like seeing Nintendo write cutscenes for Mario is like like fully voice acted cinematic cutscenes is so wild and so outside of the realm of possibility. I think like even with all the things that came later, Galaxy 2, Odyssey, like none of them have actual cinematic cutscenes like this. And it's just like this weird irreverence that only exists really in Nintendo stuff. Like I'm just thinking about this one shine that I got recently. It's right before the Sandbird situation, where you have to like realign a bunch of mirrors that are shooting the sun at an egg.
Yeah,
there's like a big centipede thing, like a huge centipede thing wrapped up on top of the egg. And like you go through the trials and tribulations of realigning all these mirrors. There are enemies on the mirrors, and they're really like not super easy to get off, these mirrors. You have to like bounce them off. It's like almost little tiny boss battles. There's one, then there's two, then there's three. And you do it and you get all three of the things aligned, and it shoots the sun at this caterpillar thing that's asleep on top of this egg. And you think like, oh, with all that sunshine, it's just going to like wake up and then slither off. But instead, it just like it just falls apart like a clay model, just kind of goes like, and then a shine shoots out of it and onto the beach, and like that's just it. That's just the conclusion of that story.
Yeah, I mean, the boss battles are weirdly intimate in that way, like and like haunting and the demise of the boss. Like there's the weird squid with like a baby,
like a pacifier.
Or something. You have to like pull it out and then like pull its legs off.
Which is like evil.
Yeah. Evil.
You're sitting there pulling like a squid's tentacles off, just like, you don't need this, right?
Yeah. And it's very clear that the squid is just like covered in like evil, like magic ink and is just kind of like enraged. You know, it doesn't really understand what's happening. It's just like trying to clean itself off. And here comes Mario, you know, ripping its legs off one by one and pulling its pacifier out. Like all you really had to do was just wash the thing off. Yeah, you didn't have to
use your flood that was given to you for its intended purpose.
That's all you had to do. You didn't have to rip my legs off. I just needed to clean my face. It gives fodder
to Baby Bowser when he meets you. He's like, my dad told me you're a bad man who cheats. Stay away from my mama. The reason I'm deceiving you is because I'm like deceiving you at your own game. I'm going to be a cheater too. It's like, we didn't need this, but I love it that it's here.
Yeah. I do agree. I mean, we've talked a lot on this show about the idea that Mario is actually the bad guy of this franchise.
Oh, and yeah.
It really feels like it in this game more than any other so far.
It does. You just kind of crash land at an island and like, you know, you're only really cleaning it up. Like there's no Mario for all the writing in this game. Mario has no agency of his own. He's just sort of like saying yes and like proceeding, you know?
Yeah.
It's very bizarre. It's really weird.
Well, the funny thing is like he's given full liberty. They're like, yeah, you have to clean up this island. And then they're like, okay, we're just going to go hang out now. Like, go clean up. And then like, Mario could just leave. He could just be like, you know what?
The plane's still there. He can just get back on it. I agree.
Yeah, he's like, it's a me out.
I mean, the fact that he does stay is evidence that he might be more kind-hearted than Baby Bowser's narrative suggests. But it's still it's just a bizarre story. Maybe. It's really weird. There's
something sinister there. I mean, why do you turn into like weird molecules whenever you have to transform? Can we talk about that?
I was thinking about it. It almost feels like the thematic opposite of 64. Where in 64 you're jumping into paintings, and here you're washing away paint on things, and then you can jump them.
Wow. I was thinking that you're being reconstructed molecularly as you
It does look like that, yeah, because Baby Bowser has a weird like antimatter bib that makes him like Terminator 2 Mario, and that's kind of how we're traveling around.
He has the red eyes.
Yeah, it does. Like, there are cutscenes that look like they're right out of Nier Automata. Like truly, like when Shadow Mario first shows up, it kind of has like that kind of Dreamcast fidelity to it as well. Like weirdly,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I need you guys to see the like final cutscene of that game. I just beat it earlier today, and it is a trip. It is a trip.
How many shines are there, if you don't mind me asking? Like in a standard run of Sunshine.
So okay, to get to the final, I didn't know this. I don't know how I figured this out as a kid.
You've got to catch a blue chocobo. Give it the carob nut. Make sure it's wonderful. You can find that out via Chocobo Bill. Breathe that until it's wonderful.
And then you want to go up and down Gold Nugget Bridge until
you hatch a shiny Togepi. Bring that to Elm. He'll give you Kratos as an unlockable character. All right,
and that's how you get Shadow in Melee.
You're saying so you have to do what for Sunshine?
You have to get to the 7th level of each level before you can get to the final.
Oh, the 7th shine of each level?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry. Which just feels like a weird counterintuitive way to unlock the ending of the game. I don't remember how 64 works or Galaxy. I don't know how Galaxy works at all, but I don't remember how 64 works. Where how do you get to the next level of the castle?
So in 64 and in Galaxy, it's just number of stars, and the stars you choose on a level are just different goals. One isn't necessarily harder than the other. They're just different. But in Sunshine, it does feel like if you stick in one place, they get harder. And like the last one is going to be really
ramps
hard.
Up.
Yeah. You get into Sandbird territory where it's like, this is truly a nightmare.
Yeah.
Have either of you got into the, I'm going to ruin this dude's name, Il Piantissimo levels?
Is that the hotel?
No, it's the guy. It's the human man who's dressed up as a Delphini. What did we say? Delphinosian.
Delphinosian.
Thank you. So it's this like human I guess Mario-sized person who's wearing like shoes and gloves and a mask to look like the people of this aisle, and he's like,
Oh my god!
I
Look at this
heard
guy.
you run fast. You want to race me? And then they're all
Yes, I remember this guy. Yes. Oh my god, I hadn't gotten here yet. I hadn't seen him again yet in this playthrough, but I do remember him.
What's his name again? I need to Google this.
It's like
Il Piantissimo.
Oh my god, yes.
I guess he's like Mario's antithesis, you know, like the anti-Mario. It's Piantissimo.
I really love the decision to put like more human looking characters alongside Mario. Like they do that in Odyssey a lot with new dunks.
Yeah, always in favor of that.
Yeah, he's great. I really like his vibe. He looks like he's from Ocarina. Like he looks like a Zelda character.
He does. He really does.
If you look into apparently the game files, he has the same face as the mailman from Zelda.
Oh yeah, the postman. Yeah, similar jaw structure for sure.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Wow.
Thank you for this gift.
I love that character. He's always just like, you suck at this. Race me.
Flood getting heavy? Race me. Come on.
Race me. And like the he has the same move set as Shadow Mario, so you're always just like, why can't I jump like that? Why can't I do the backwards jump and then do the spinny thing and then I'm just suddenly up there? Oh wait, I have to
What's holding me down, weighing me down, that can shoot water and also talks? It's at the tip of my tongue.
I love the idea that Mario's running around and he's shooting water at such a high pressure that he can fly. Like,
that's the thing. I almost wish they did more with that. And maybe they do later on, but like I wanted to see more like abilities and stuff. Is that a thing? Are there more like flood powers as you play? Because I've seen some boxes that are not yet visible.
You do get more flood nozzles.
Cool.
As time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good to know. That changes my mind a little bit. Because like if it was just shoot and weak jetpack, that may not be enough to justify, building the game around it.
No, there's two more. One of them is like a propeller from a boat, but also shoots water out.
Oh, that's cool.
It's like the speed upgrade pretty much, and just like lets you fly across levels.
I love that.
And I remember being a kid, like on the hub world, just holding down the R button over the water and just running around the ocean, just like in circles, just being like, this rules.
That's awesome. I mean, that's
awesome,
the thing.
yeah.
It's like that's the joy this game is providing, is like just being a kid and exploring this setting. As we've said many times before. That's awesome.
Yeah, I do also see a situation in which like if you're younger when this game comes out and like this is the game that you get for the next like 8 months, you're gonna look past the mechanical shortfallings that the thing has. You're not gonna know that it was rushed or anything like that. Like people weren't that tuned in 2001 when this game came out. You're just gonna say like, oh, it's the new Mario game and I get to like explore this island, and like the game is really pushing you to do that. And I feel like I could see this being a kind of like formative experience in somebody's childhood. Like it just feels like a playground in the way that a lot of games kind of we take for granted feel like playgrounds now, but in 2001 kind of a cool idea. Yeah. It's good. It's a good game.
It's really good.
I found out today after I beat it that if you talk to the sunglasses man, he not only gives you sunglasses to wear, he also gives you a Hawaiian-esque shirt that's covered in the shine sprites.
Oh, it's a little Tommy Bahama action?
Yeah, so you can just...
Hey, welcome to Margaritaville. Here's some sunglasses and a Tommy Bahama shirt and a backpack.
Yeah, go
water.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated,
baby. I am actually disappointed they didn't give more characters backpacks in Nintendo games in the GameCube era. I do like the idea of like Star Fox Adventures, but you have a backpack. And Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, and you have a backpack.
Well, the lore
like been fun.
To Star Fox Adventures that they actually cut off Fox's back and replace it with a metal back. Yeah, so there's kind of...
He has a pack back.
Yeah, exactly. Where he keeps...
I feel like I like Sunshine a lot more than Star Fox Adventure, but they're both kind of similar in that like they kind of dropped the original game a bit, Like Star Fox teases you and they're like, oh, you're playing Star Fox? Never mind. You're playing a weird version of Zelda and The Land Before Time. Goodbye. you know, but Sunshine at least keeps that identity of both games consistent. I also I think like you said, this is obviously a formative experience for you, Pablo, and I think for a lot of people, you know, if this was their entry to Mario or they just got it when it came out, like I can see and appreciate the beloved memories. I do think it's still worth playing, like even though I'm a little bit harder on it, and I would say it's easily like the least polished of the three. Weirdly, it's still worth experiencing because this is doing something unique enough that like it might click for you even over the other two if like this is what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll just say to like kind of to wrap up my thoughts on playing it at the moment is that I went into it expecting like, okay, cool, this is going to be the one that is like built to be played with just like a controller and there's no like extra stuff. They're not inventing anything new really. They're just like making a Mario game for a very like standard Nintendo system. Maybe the last standard Nintendo system. And that's what I'm getting out of it. And it's fun and it's good and I'm enjoying playing it at the moment and I will probably continue playing it and hopefully finish it. I would like to see the ending cutscene as you're talking about, Pablo. It
is.
I mean, the story is so fucking bonkers already that I'm excited to see where it ends up.
Have either of you gotten Yoshi in the game?
No. I didn't know he was in it.
Spoiler
That's amazing.
alert. You can just...
No, I'm glad you told me. I needed something to look forward to other than Sandbird for the 11th time.
The best mechanic about Yoshi is they keep the flood idea where you can shoot water, but instead of shooting water, Yoshi's just vomiting, just projectile vomit, just everywhere. And it's just Yoshi going like, wow, and just like a spray coming out of his mouth of whatever. Yoshi can eat the fruit around the island and then like becomes a different colored Yoshi depending on what fruit you eat. And then
that sounds amazing.
Also,
I'm looking at pictures of this. It is horrifying.
It's terrible. Like thinking back about it now, like nightmare. Like who was like, yeah, make Yoshi shoot vomit out of his mouth as much like as gross as possible.
This projectile purple vomit all over the island. Hey, clean this up, Mario.
Oh my god. Well, I did just Google Yoshi Sunshine Vomit, so I guess that's my new screen name.
New band name, huh?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Cool. Should we wrap up this segment?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I want to give the floor to you, Pablo. Like, what's like, you know, full circle? Like, how are you? I just want to give the floor to you. Like, how do you want to sum up your thoughts about Sunshine, this beloved game of yours?
Yeah, here's my pro gamer hot take.
How many shines out of 10?
Playable.
You really feel like you're playing Mario Sunshine the minute you press start. You can start the save file. You can copy or erase. The minute it begins, Mario, Peach, and Old Toad are on a plane. Oh, wait, what's with Mario's face in the very, very beginning on the plane? It's like hearts for eyes, right?
Yeah, he's thinking about his relaxing vacation he's about to go on.
Oh.
Yes. It's when they show you an ad for Isle Delfino and he gets obsessed with, I think, the food that's on the island. Yes. And his face turns to hearts for eyes and his tongue is sticking out. Mm-hmm. But what's great is that it doesn't stop when the plane hits turbulence.
Okay, I missed that. I missed the reason. I guess I was like in the kitchen or something. Because when I came back, it was just like the three of them on a plane and Mario with his tongue hanging out, hearts for eyes. I'm like, is that just how he is these days? He's permanently lusting for life. Mm-hmm. I love this.
The 2000s were a weird time for everyone, Steve.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's like, can't wait to see Van Wilder again. Can't wait to spike my hair and
dye the tips only.
Yeah, temporary tips. Blue hair dye. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And listen to I don't know, Taking Back Sunday. Help me here.
Limp Bizkit.
This feels like good Charlotte era. This is definitely good Charlotte Mario, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's just one of those days.
This is the most new metal of the Mario entries for sure.
No.
Yeah, I guess we'll sum up with that. But I think this is a good game. I am really happy I finally played it, and I definitely want to experience Yoshi if nothing else. Mm-hmm. Give me those sunglasses. Give me that strange, sick Yoshi, and I'll be happy.
I do want to get the sunglasses. That's kind of my goal at the moment. Is figure out how to get those sunglasses.
I never figured it out. I just kept talking to that dude every level, like, give me the sunglasses now. Give me this now. I need them.
Because he shows up a lot. He's in a bunch of levels. He's not just in that first
every
one.
level. He's in every level, and if you do get the sunglasses, the game is darker. Like they just put like a darker shade on the game.
No way.
Yes.
That's amazing. I love that.
It's full of like, to like, I guess, give my final take on Sunshine. It's full of like those little moments that make the game unique and like special, where you're just sitting there like, oh, I can talk to this dude, he will give me sunglasses, and it will for some reason make the game darker, make it harder to play the game because it's just a shade darker. But like that's why you love it. You want the sunglasses, you want the Yoshi to shoot vomit, you want to find that one dude on the island who's like, I've been trapped here for 3 years.
Yes.
And it's just him in a fire, and you're like, dude, how do you live?
It's him in a fire and a pipe with a bunch of paint in it, and he's like not that far from shore.
Yeah, like,
it's
dude,
like really close. Like you just
swim.
swam there. Yeah.
Amazing. That's beautifully said. It is a game about discovery and about enjoying the little moments over like, completing a level even. Yeah. Mario Sunshine, a beautiful vacation. That's a little weird. Epic game, playable. I love that as like the ultimate stamp of approval. This game works. We checked the disc.
That's the GameStop version of their review.
I gotta pull out a filing desk and make sure it works.
Oh, remember those weird cranky things that you'd put the disc on to like fix the scratches? I don't know how to describe it other than like
the disc doctor.
Yeah.
Someone told me that putting peanut butter on discs also helps, but I never tried it because it seemed like a prank.
I did toothpaste. Someone told me toothpaste, and I was like, yeah, I'll try toothpaste.
Did it work?
I think so, because I had a copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle that got ruined because it was also the only game I played.
Talk about the weird GameCube era. That game is like, there's no more crystallizing peak of like GameCube early 2000s vibe than Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
I didn't mention this, but when I bought that GameCube at GameStop, that was one of the first games I bought just because I wanted to have it again.
Yeah.
Just for that dad rock bass line in the first level.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I feel like I wish Sunshine started with the same track. It's like the plane.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, as Shadow Mario shows up.
Oh, man.
Amazing.
Cool. Pablo, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Super Mario Sunshine, part of the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection for the Nintendo Switch. Where do you want people to find you on the internet, if at all?
Yeah, no, you can find me. Mostly just Twitter. It's at Danger Butts. I think that's my only internet thing.
It's been so fun to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. It's a lot of fun.
I have a feeling you'll end up on a stream of ours at some point. But thank you for coming on this episode. Maybe when we do our Sonic Adventure 2 Battle bonus episode eventually, you can come back.
No, I'm sorry. I will come back.
I think we should just say now, like, when you decide to show up, Pablo, then and there, that's when we record that episode. And it's just a live concert of the soundtrack.
Yeah, one day, Steven, you and I are just going to be in the middle of recording an episode and Pablo's just going to appear on the Skype call.
Boom, 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 boom. Oh, yeah.
I don't care what you're talking about.
Of sound. Yeah.
It's Sonic time.
Next holiday season when we're all in Jersey.
We should cover, like, I know City Escape gets all the attention of that soundtrack, but I love the, like, there's a level called Green Forest, and it's Shadow going like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give it to you. It's like it's so not cool, but I love it. Anyway, we have to do that. Now it's in stone. Yeah, when we're all in Jersey, we'll all play bass guitar at the same time. Do 3 basses.
Yes.
It's gonna be great.
That sounds wonderful. All right.
Cool.
Bye.
Goodbye. Soon, we're going to talk about Mario 64.
Oh, I'm so excited. See you soon. Hello and welcome back to a very special bonus episode, Mario 3D All-Stars. In this segment, we'll be talking about the longly awaited Mario 64, and joining us is my beloved sister, Lauren. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted you on specifically, one, because the Hilgers need to be in full force, and two, I really wanted to share like our memory of this game because it's such a pivotal moment growing up that like because you were significantly more sentient than I was when it came out, I would love to hear like how this like really went down when it came to our house.
That's amazing.
And like
Sure.
what our experience was playing it growing up.
Yes. So I guess I have to introduce myself as an elder since I was more sentient in 96.
Back in the 20s, you were so sentient. No kidding.
The only thing I remember is how sentient you were. Incredible. You had object permanence and everything. It was unbelievable.
Lauren Hilger at the turn of the century. She's the most sentient mayor.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, yes, I do remember it. I mean, I feel like I remember it in ways that perhaps are different from the way you remember it.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for us to sort of link those together.
And figure out what happened. Yeah.
I mean, ours was the first house that had N64.
Yes, I was thinking of that because Brendan and I talked about a little bit about this like suburban scenario in the last segment where like there was always the house that had the GameCube or the 64, and like
Right.
we were the first and like maybe the last because everyone just kept coming over to play this thing.
Right.
Yes.
There was no need for anyone to get their own. I mean, and
Yeah.
my friends had other systems, but this was the one that I feel like had a different cultural cachet in 6th grade.
Yeah.
And definitely, you know, I mean, it was wild, like just seeing that shit. Sorry if I can say
No,
shit.
you listen to the show, it's fine. We're
Introducing myself with an expletive.
This is an explicit podcast.
Okay, cool.
good. Mario 64 was so fucking cool.
Amazing.
You were saying, Lauren.
I was just saying that, you know, ours was the house that had this system first. And I think it's interesting because like having my friends over who were seeing it for the first time and like making those memories with them is definitely like what I remember. And then I remember solitary play and then us playing and then us and our neighbor coming over and playing. But it was just so linked to that era too, like being able to like mute the game and play Lauryn Hill, you know, and just jam to, you know, Cool Mountain and Lauryn Hill was definitely an era.
Oh, you just linked a missing piece for me because I'm like, what is missing from this game that I remembered? I think it was Lauryn Hill, honestly.
It was Lauryn
Like, I
Hill,
was
yeah,
like,
because that was
yeah.
sort of, I mean, I forget when that album came out. I think 97 or 98, but it was
I mean,
definitely
same year. Yeah,
around
same
the
year as
same
Mario.
time. Being able to like come home from school and play. I feel like for me, you know, you and I both grew up playing video games from like, again, the beginning of sentience. But, you know, I think perhaps like the difference in our ages, like what were you, 6, 7?
Yeah, 6 or 7. Yeah.
Versus middle school, I think was definitely, you know, and it's weird because I never won. Like I just left this game in a place where I'm like, it was unending. Like I played a lot, but I never finished it. So it's still sort of unfinished in my mind. And just when I think about that time, it definitely, you know, trying to beat something and like learning how to play. I think specifically, like, I mean, this is a new system, but I feel like Super Mario, we knew how to play. And I'm also revealing myself by saying Mario. I know it's Mario. I'm not sure how we feel about this.
It took me like a good
tomato.
5 years of really thinking about it to switch from Mario to Mario. I was a big
What's
Mario
that?
guy. And
Why
then
do we say it?
I don't know. I think it's a New Jersey thing.
I do too, because I've heard it on Jersey Shore and I was really embarrassed.
Was that your like awakening? Like, oh no, I need to change something about myself.
I've been told many times, I've been corrected many times, but on Jersey Shore, Snooki does say when she meets Gianni, her husband, she calls him a Mario brother. And I was like, okay, so maybe, but granted, she's from Poughkeepsie, so I'm not sure. But
Yeah.
yeah,
The
I
only
do
one
feel
from
like
Jersey is Sammy, so we need to hear her say Mario to know the truth.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
you know, so it's definitely just so linked into my brain. Ugh, Mario. It's not even, that's not how I would ever say that name. If someone in real life introduced me as, and that's his name, Mario, I would know how to say it.
Yeah.
It is funny because the game opens with him going, "It's a me, Ma." He doesn't
And
go,
we're like, we're
"It's
not
a
listening
me,
to this.
Mario."
It's Mario.
It's Mario. Yeah. Well, if you met a Mario and he was super, it might be Mario then. Is that the situation? Is that the delineation here?
I
Is
think
that
so.
if they become super in any way, shape, or form, then they're Mario?
Yes. I think that's it. It's also just like not accepting new information to me is so Jersey. Like being able, like, you know, it's Barnes and Noble, but people will still be like, no, it's Barnes and Nobles. It's like, but you know otherwise.
That is a weird New Jersey. Yes, everybody does say Nobles. It's
Sandwich.
What'd you say? Spanglish?
No.
Oh,
I just want to remind you of my favorite Adam Sandler movie. No, sandwich was a thing. I think it was in like where our parents grew up. But instead of sandwich, they would say sandwich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
New Jersey's a weird place. Very, very bizarre. I'm really glad to have lived there as long as I did. But I mean, already,
it's a good
a couple
area.
weeks removed, I'm already looking back like big question marks there.
I just wanted to touch on something you brought up, Lauren, because I so agree. This idea of the game never being over, really.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, you know, our formative time playing games together was Super Nintendo, which inherently was like a left to right experience. Like there was a dimensional finish line.
Right.
And that was what was so exciting to me as an unsentient 7-year-old was, you know, the first time we got Mario 64 and like the fact that it just opens and you can go and like it really blew my mind, like having that openness. And I think playing the game now, that weirdly is still the best part of it. The fact that like it's still beholden to the like Super Mario World structure of like there's a goal and you're gonna get it and the level will be over. But what the game does well, and I think what it does so atmospherically, is just like existing in this place and discovering it with friends and with family. Like honestly, something that stood out to me as a kid and something that still stands out to me now as a strange adult is you go into the courtyard of this castle and there are just ghosts everywhere. Yeah. And like it's so weird because like you hear them giggling, but the only other sound is like spring birds chirping. Like it's a nice day out.
Yeah.
Something about like a nice day in a regal courtyard just full of ghosts is like so my shit.
Yeah.
It's like how you always said, Lauren, that you love the Met because it's like very haunted in a way.
Yes.
Like it has like a haunted Met vibe. And that's the thing. Like I think the starring element of Mario 64 is the castle. Like the levels are fun and there's some standout ones, but like what defines the experience is this hub world that you can just kind of parkour around and like find secrets in.
Totally.
Yeah. It's an extremely bizarre place. Yeah, my earliest memory of this game in general, I would say, is being at a person's house. I was almost going to say their name, but then we'd have to bleep it out, probably. But anyway, I was at a person's house who had an N64 because I was only playing Comic Zone and Sonic the Hedgehog on my Sega Genesis at the time.
You should have come over. We were the house.
Yeah, I should have, I guess. And then I just remember climbing all the trees in that courtyard filled with ghosts and just being like, this is the best. I can't do this in Sonic. I love this. And that's like my whole memory of playing that game when it came out, I think. It wasn't until years later when they put it on the Nintendo DS that I actually played it for real. But yeah, I don't know. This is a game that I have visited many times over the years, trying to capture that, like, what if I played this when it came out? That would have been fun, right? And you never quite get it if you missed that boat, but boy, do I still love it. I mean, going back and playing it again, especially amongst the other games in this collection, it's been really fun to just see how much they fucking nailed on their first outing, you know, like the first like real true 3D platformer. The way I was describing it last night to somebody was essentially like, you know, a lot of people made MP3 players and then Apple made the iPod and it was like, oh yeah, that's what it should have been the whole time. Shit, you know? That's kind of what this game feels like in a lot of ways. It doesn't have the Guinness Book of World Records record for first 3D platforming video game, which I learned was a game called Jumping Flash, which is fucking bad. I watched some videos of it and it looks awful. But it nailed pretty much everything. You know, I mean, it's the foundation for every Mario game going forward, just about. It's awesome. Yeah. It's still awesome.
It is. I mean, I think, you know, we've referenced how like playing it now, like the camera can be a little tricky. It was even at the time. Like that was something that I remember being frustrated about even as a kid. But it was also. But
you put
like,
up with it because it was the first time you'd ever seen it.
Yeah, it was the first time that like rotating perspective was a thing. Like it was a dimensional addition. Like that hasn't really happened since. Like, you know, it was really mind blowing. And I think that the legacy this game has is I think if you play the more modern Mario and even weirdly the older Mario games, there's a precision in platforming design. Like, you know, Lauren, we had the Duck Hunt Mario Brothers duo pack, and that game is so much about like just learning how to play it and beating it, you know, going back to that, like this is a sort of singular experience. And then the later Super Nintendo Mario's like kind of honed that and perfected that and added to that, and this is just like a total like reinvention of the wheel. But the legacy I think is less in the platforming, because in the moments where Mario 64 is trying to be like Super Mario World, it's a little bit frustrating because Mario is so loose and so like ready to do backflips that like to demand that he act like his 16-bit counterpart and just jump is like so against his nature. Like he wants to jump off walls. And that's something that is also fun, is like you can do the laid out path before you know, jump on the square platforms over the lava, or maybe you can jump in the lava, which makes them go like, wahoo! And then you could use that momentum to get to the same goal. So it had a little bit of openness even in the problem solving as well. But all that to say, I think the legacy is the mystery and the discovery. And I think I've mentioned Banjo-Kazooie a lot in this episode, but that to me, Banjo-Kazooie is like, felt like Rare was inspired by the weirdness and the element of discovery in Peach's Castle, and made a whole game about that, you know, and like a weird Wizard of Oz land where it was even less about platforming and more just about like, what weird powers can you get? Who are you going to meet? And what are you going to see? You know, like there's a moment going back to the ghost courtyard. I honestly think my favorite level in 64 is the weird ghost level, Big Boo's Haunt, because every other level is in a painting or like in a wall. And it's like, I remember, Lauren, you and I, even like when we discovered how to even get into a level was a big deal. We're like, oh my God, you jump into a painting? Like what? Because like that's all you're really given is like when that game came out, they probably imagined that a lot of players would just be running around the courtyard, and then when you finally go in, you're like, okay, but where's like the game? Like this is just birds chirping and me running around, and you finally find that painting, and it's the only thing left to try. But Boo, you go into this courtyard full of ghosts on a nice spring day, and one of the ghosts, when you face it, has a strange like caged carousel. Like it's a really bizarre like eldritch token. You're like, what is that? So if you punch the ghost, you go into that, like you turn small and you're in this place. It's actually scary. Like all the ghost levels in Mario World are like, ooh, you know, it's like not scary at all.
Yeah,
but this
it's like
one
the
is
person
like,
who lives down the street and like puts up, you know, the Halloween decorations that make the entire town go like, wow, check that house out. We gotta go look at that one. That's what all the ghost houses are in like Super Mario World.
But Big Boo's Haunt has like atonal like piano with like dissonance, and every time
Boo
you kill
knows
a
your
ghost,
dad's name and constantly yells at you. Yeah, it's like,
there's a room with a piano that starts like it has teeth, and that to me is like Banjo-Kazooie really just like did that constantly. So it's really cool to see.
Just imagine like a whiteboard of like index cards. It's like, okay, what do we like about 64? Piano with teeth, number 1.
Yes.
Build a whole thing around it. Okay, you're a bear with a bird and a backpack. There's a witch? I don't know. We're good.
You were nodding when I was talking about the ghost looks. Remember, that's something that you and I loved, is like discovering those secrets.
Yeah, the weirdness. I think you're right. I think the legacy is the mystery. I mean, I like when I was playing it, the first times I played, I feel like I remembered thinking this is unbearably beautiful. You know, this is endless.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my memory of it. Like when I actually haven't played since it's come out, but I've like watched it online, and I feel like while it's like limited visually, there's definitely that feel still. Like they definitely managed to create that aura of weirdness that I think is so appealing to kids and to anyone, and to like just take that risk to be super weird. Like actually Banjo-Kazooie, the first time I ever stayed up all night at an all-girls sleepover was playing Banjo-Kazooie. And it was just so weird because we were like, oh my God, like the sun is here. The sun has risen. We didn't go to sleep. And like, we've been playing this game all night.
That's awesome. I mean, that's happens so infrequently too. There's so few games, I think. But like, I could point to every single game that made me do that as like a formative experience growing up. It's the best feeling in the world, especially when it's at a sleepover. That's the best. Yeah. That was me with Super Smash Brothers, the first one. Yeah. I
just feel like there's like some part of you that's like still stuck in like whatever, you know, round that was. Hazy Maze Cave, you know, like there's some part of you that's still there. Especially since I never finished.
Yeah, that's another one, because that, I mean, you and I have very similar Mario tastes, because like that level is also just so strange.
So
like,
strange.
You're in this like kind of industrial area that has maps and signs that are seemingly for workers, none of whom are there.
Right.
And you go into like, they're like, okay, left is the work elevator, right is the poisonous maze.
Okay.
And then you eventually find this like water area where this is like really beautiful like plesiosaurus kind of like peacefully swimming around. And like I think that the moments like that just still mean so much to me. Because you see that still in modern Mario, but they're almost so polished that it takes away a little bit of that magic. And I'm not saying that it should go back to like being a little clunkier, but I think like there is such a loose sense of direction. Like the only direction that game is really giving you is the name of what the star is.
Right.
It's like a subtle hint, like, you know, in Big Boo's Haunt, it's like, let's go ghost hunting or something. So it's like, okay, that level is also especially like esoteric because it's just like it's a haunted house with rooms that will lead into other ones. And there's the piano with teeth, books flying at you. So weird. Ghosts don't die. It's so strange. But then you're like, okay, well, all right, there's no visible star here, but the name of the star is Ghost Hunt. What if I defeated every ghost, you know? And that's, I didn't even remember that's how you do it, but that's what I did playing it again. And that's like how it works. I think there's a lot of magic in that, like very loose.
Just figuring it out.
Yeah, just figuring it out.
Because even
totally.
by the time they get the sunshine, every time you jump into a level and they tell you what the shine you're trying to collect is, there's like a little camera flyover that shows you like exactly where it is. It's almost like when you're playing Tony Hawk and they're like, okay, here's where the secret tape is. You can kind of see where the secret tape is, but you don't know exactly how to get there yet. Like that's what they were going for in Sunshine. None of that in 64, which I had a really fun time revisiting it. I've been kind of playing it ambiently in the background while playing the other two games that we were talking about for this episode, just to kind of see like, okay, here's 64 and here's Galaxy, here's 64 and here's Sunshine. And that to me was the big delineation between those two in terms of like how much leeway they're giving the player. Because Sunshine still has a lot of instances where you get to just run around like a cool place and like hang out and just kind of like find things for yourself. But they'll change the whole level to kind of just like suit whatever shine you're going for in that one moment. And 64 is like way more open. You know, sometimes there'll be a boss on top of a mountain or something, but generally it's like you could get most of the stars on your first run. You know, you could get kind of anyone you want, which I think is great. And especially if you're a kid when that game comes out and you get to just like run around and explore. I mean, that's what kids love to do anyway, you know, outside or inside or in a video game. So building a game around that concept is brilliant, and it's no wonder to me playing it now that like it's the thing that's deeply, you know, branded on our fucking cortexes at this point. Yeah, it's incredible.
The dawn of sentience. Yeah. I mean, I think like the first star in the first level is you have to defeat the Babam King, which I remember you and I, Lauren, like it took a while for us to figure out how. Like it's not really intuitive that you have to like, we kept throwing him off the mountain.
And then he yells at you.
And he jumps up and he's like, I'm a king. You can't do that. But you had to just like throw him on the grass. And he's like, ow, my back. It's like, I never thought to do that.
Yep.
But you know, the other bosses are a bit more intuitive. Like there's the big brick who's like, I'm sick of being made into floors and castles.
Yes.
And he's like a giant band-aid on his back. So, okay, I know his back is bothering him.
Right.
I didn't think this round bomb king
is that every boss now that I'm thinking about it?
Except for Bowser, which you have to throw into the bombs.
You throw his back into a bomb.
That's true. Yeah, you're just giving everyone like lumber collision. Yeah. But I remember, I think the first star we did was like, you know, when you're in that level, which honestly, the first level of this game is easily one of my favorites too. Like,
yes,
it's because it's like in your point of view, there's so many places to go and so many, like you can talk to the friendly bombs who are like, you want to go in through a cannon? Then there's the chain chomp, which I think was the first star we got because like it's clearly, it's tied to a log and you can see like something behind a fence. Like, okay, I'm gonna free that thing, you know? Like that was the first thing I thought to do and it rewards that. So I think it's like rewarding that curiosity is also a big plus of this game. Sometimes it could be a little bit like 1997, like how would I think that unless I'm only trying every possibility? Right. But a lot of them are like very fun and very just like thinking outside the box. You know, I think that Galaxy of the three games is definitely the most polished, but it's very much like, you know, it's like a Rubik's Cube where it's like,
go from
here's
point A to
the
point
exact
B.
way to do it. This is a little bit more right-brained in its like approach to problem solving.
Yeah, which I think, you know, we keep bringing up Mario Odyssey and just how wonderful that game is, I think. And playing this collection is kind of giving us a new appreciation for that game. And that really is like a perfect blending of what they nailed in 64 and what everybody loved about Galaxy.
Because it has like, it has the weirdness of 64 where you're like in a big open environment. You can run around in your underwear. It's great. Like, yeah. Which is like, I love how they priced the boxer brief at 1,000 coins. Like, we know you want this one.
It's the most expensive thing in the game. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right that like that is a really good blend of like this like creative approach versus the like polish of precision later on.
Yeah, I played this game in its entirety on the Nintendo DS when it first came out, which came with a weird thing. I don't know if you remember the DS when it came out. It had like a wrist strap attached to it, and then there was a little tiny like plastic thing that you were supposed to put on your thumb and use as a stylus, and that's how you controlled the camera in the DS version.
No idea.
It was really weird. It was really bizarre, but I loved it. I used it constantly. I mean, I thought it was incredible, at the time when it came out. I don't even know how old I was, but in that version of the game, you started as Yoshi. You weren't even Mario. It was Yoshi showing up to the castle, and like you needed to unlock Yoshi, and then you needed to unlock Mario, and then Luigi, and then Wario was like a secret character that you could unlock. And they like changed the story slightly when you played the DS version. I don't know why they chose to do that. It was a really bizarre choice. There were a bunch of like mini games hidden all over the place that used the touchscreen in weird ways. But I was kind of interested to go back and play the like original version of this game and just like, I don't know, see what the changes were, because I have that DS version so like deeply ingrained in my head. It was very, very interesting to just see how like cut and dry basic it was from a narrative standpoint. It's like, it's really just as simple as possible. It's just like, Bowser's here, we got to get Bowser out of here. Like, very classic, but then every character you meet is bonkers. Every character is super weird. I mean, even down to Toad is just hanging out in the castle. Yeah. Toad doesn't even make the like classic Toad noise, which I'm not even going to try and replicate, but like is a noise.
I can, but I won't, for the safety of you both.
I just like our hair gets blown back.
Yeah. It's like you age 80 years.
It's the Ark of the Covenant. Anyway, like Toad is just sitting there with this big smile, like huge, almost like menacing smile on his face, and he's just like kind of jumping down with his arms up over and over again. And then you talk to him and he has 10 pages of dialogue. Yeah. He just won't stop talking to you. And like that was my first like blush in revisiting this game, was like, okay, you start the game, Mario jumps out of a pipe that appears from nowhere and then it disappears back into the ground. There's Lakitu, who has the camera, who like explains what a camera in a 3D video game is to you. And then you walk in, Bowser laughs at you, and then Toad is just there and won't shut up. And I was like, this game is on a completely different level. And I think it had something to do with the fact that I was simultaneously rewatching a bunch of Nickelodeon cartoons for another podcast I was a guest on. But I was watching a lot of Hey Arnold and thinking about how Hey Arnold was like so different from every other Nickelodeon cartoon at the time, because that was very like slice of life, and it was just very much like kids being kids and not so much like slapstick wild humor. It's not two beavers trying to stay up all night and like whacking each other with a log that's alive. Like that is very much like the era, and Mario 64 weirdly captures that like more kind of esoteric, wild era of cartoons at the time, which again I think is just another reason why like it had so many disparate elements that all came together and made like this perfect cohesion of a thing that like it's no wonder it inspired every other video game that came after it from that point on. Like it really is a watershed moment, and even revisiting it, you can kind of feel it even in the moments that are like clunky and bizarre. Yeah. It's amazing. Even just as like, this is a bad thing and should be improved, but it's a cool idea. Like Toad giving you 10 pages of dialogue is a bad way to do a tutorial, but it is cool that there is like a character in the world that you can talk to who tells you how to play the video game. Like that's nice by itself. And then people have made that better since. Yeah. It's cool.
There are the stairs that go up infinitely until you have like a certain. Yeah. I remember like, I think you and I tried to be like, there has to be an end to this.
Yes, I do remember that.
You need the rubber band? Put a rubber band on the joystick so it just goes up, and then you just leave it on.
Yeah, we were just doing it manually.
Great.
It was an uneventful summer, I guess.
Totally.
But it's funny you mentioned the rubber bands, because another fun fact about the N64 in our house is that our dog Lila, our beagle, used to chew. If we left the controllers out, she would, when she was a puppy and was like teething, I guess, she would chew the top of the joysticks, and one of them she actually managed to like bite the top off. So one of the controllers was just like a thorn, basically.
No one wanted it.
Yeah, and then like
You had to pay a blood price to play Mario.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Mario Party was especially bad because every mini game in that game is like rotate the joystick as fast as you can. So, like, you would get like stigmata just trying to like fish. So yeah, it was very wild experience. It's interesting that a game so singular was such a multiplayer experience, and that's something that I think you mentioned earlier, Lauren. Like this system, I mean, I think it's evident just by the fact that it had 4 controller slots. You know, like they really wanted it to be this collective experience and more social. And that's also something that's Nintendo's always done well. And I mean, GameCube followed that with the 4 controllers, and the Wii followed that by being like a very kind of party friendly console as well.
Yeah.
Weirdly, the Switch is kind of a return to like, no, it's just me. It's my Switch. I want to play Hades. Like that's what's going on now. But I think there's a lot of beauty in experiencing a kind of single player game with other people. You know, that's why I wanted you on, Lauren, because I think we have such a cool memory of like discovery in this game and seeing what happens by just like a few minds being like, oh, maybe try going over there. And then this game does take a few minds to really work. I think if you're on your own, you might feel a little overwhelmed. But if you have a few people thinking about it, like maybe just jump into that painting, dude. Try it out. Why not?
Yeah. Were there any other games that you two played in that era, in the 64 era, that stand out like on this level?
Party.
Yeah. Party, dude. Mario Party? Yeah, Mario Party 1 was a big one, which is like, that's another one that I think gets kind of written off. But again, it was the first of its kind. And I think it was like them taking advantage of the 64's multiplayer aspect, you know?
Yeah.
There was also weirdly a single player mode, which like, you know, doesn't really exist anymore, but it was like, you know, Bowser's ruining our party. Like, we have to get him out of here.
Yeah.
Party was big. Mario Kart, of course.
Of course. Rainbow Road. Yeah, I mean, all the Mario games were big. I think another game. I mean, I got more into Zelda, but I think that was like when we were kind of drifting apart a little bit. In terms of our gaming, not like.
No, we were always
I didn't
close.
talk to him for 7 years. We lived a room apart.
Shut the fuck up about Kokiri Forest.
I wouldn't blame you if we drifted apart socially.
I mean,
when I started playing.
Anytime
Ocarina.
I talked to Steven about Zelda, there were 10 pages of dialogue. And he had this weird menacing grin.
I mean, what about Pilot Wings? Like, we definitely
Oh my God.
played.
Yes, Pilot Wings. That feels like a game only we had.
I know,
truly.
agreed.
Like, because it was like we had a lot of like very. We also rented a lot, so there's a lot of like mysterious games of that era for me.
Yeah,
like,
same here. I did the same. Yeah.
Do you remember that game we rented, Lauren, called Mischief Makers, where it's like kind of like a Sailor Moon girl, and she goes shake,
Yes.
shake when she grabs enemies.
Yes, I do.
Shake, shake. Stuff like that is just sort of like floating around my brain. But yeah, Pilot Wings was when we got the 64, it came with Mario and Pilot Wings. And Pilot Wings was also like, you can tell that was like one of the first 3D games with like, you can fly anywhere. But it was kind of fun. Like it was really like, talk about not beating it. It was just like flying around an island, you know? And it was so peaceful and the music was so nice. But then when you crashed, it was like guttural screams. Like
it was
like
bloody.
serene. Yeah, it was great. Mario Party was a big one. Mario Kart, obviously. And then Mario Kart was also a game that like our like family also liked playing. Like it was, you know, 64 was just us kind of like figuring out this puzzle. But yeah, a lot of games in the Hilger household. You should have come over. I don't know why we missed each other in life, Brendan. This could have been our collective experience.
I had some cousins who had an N64 at their beach house, and whenever I went to their beach house, we would just like hang out inside and play N64 all day, essentially, instead of going to the beach, because I didn't have an N64 and that's all I wanted to do. And we got really into the Mario Party games, but the one that I actually like sat down and played all of, like the only N64 game that I played like at the time when it came out, loved it, was Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards.
Yes.
It's a good one.
Which I had a Game Boy and was playing, what was it, Kirby's Dream Land 2? It was the one where you could like ride a hamster around. And already had this like affinity for Kirby for some reason, more than like any other video game character. So the idea that I could go to my cousin's beach house and play Kirby in full 3D and I could take powers and blend them together. I could have a sword and it's on fire. I was like, yes, this is great.
Yeah.
and loved that game. Played it like all the way to completion. It was amazing. But yeah, Mario Party was definitely a big one at that time. 2 and 3 specifically. We would just like swap between. And what was the Donkey Kong 64? Is that what it was called?
Yeah,
one too.
that was a big deal.
Oh,
At least
yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
Why
are you going?
I mean, I don't know. All I remember are like the female figures of these games, except for Kirby, who's, like without gender, above gender. But like Dixie Kong was the one with the ponytail, right? Like the prehensile ponytail that could like hawk things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's in my mind. She's with me.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I was thinking too when you brought up Kirby, like Kirby Superstar was another big game for us, like back in Super Nintendo.
Yes.
Because that was like when 64 was all about combining powers, but in Superstar, when you got a power, you could hit A and then that would make a character for the second player to play as. It was so much fun.
That was incredible.
Yeah.
What a cool way of doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that era was very interesting. It's kind of like one of the big bummers, I think, whenever people talk about the fact that like Nintendo isn't releasing this stuff on the Switch. Like the fact that I can't go on the Switch store and just like buy up all the stuff that they release on N64. I understand why that's a bummer to a lot of people, because like the affinity that we all have for this stuff and even the way we're talking about it right now, like it'd be so nice to go revisit that. And also Nintendo has the ability to do that at any moment, literally, and make millions of dollars off of just stuff they released in the 90s.
I also know of younger people too that like didn't grow up with this that still have an affinity for it. Like there's still an appeal to this era. The same way like there's an appeal to like by the time we were growing up, like NES, we called it old Nintendo. It was like, it was so, we were in 3D now. Like how could we ever go back to this, archaic era? But there's a lot of appeal to that as well. I mean, we see that aesthetic like apes so consistently, both for NES and SNES specifically. I think this kind of just leads into a conversation of like game preservation, because I think that we open this episode with kind of acknowledging a lot of people's complaints of like, oh, like they could have done more to like refine these games a bit. But I think there's still a ton of value in just experiencing them as is.
Yes.
Specifically Mario 64, like really feeling how it felt to play it when that came out, like warts and all. Like, 'cause I think for as much as it might feel archaic in some moments, it still feels just as weird and just as magical when it came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I really do wish that there was a better and easier way and more legal way, I guess, to play all of that stuff these days. But like it's so difficult, because the only way you could really do it is like go find a weird, or maybe not weird, like video game store, buy an old N64, and then like hunt around on eBay for physical cartridges that they don't make anymore that are marked up to be $800, that shouldn't be how we experience the things that we loved as a kid.
Yeah. I'm fortunate that our 64 still works, so I have it in my apartment and I have most of all the games we had. So like I'm glad, but even still, like that is like a 20-minute setup of like finding the right inputs,
cables
and like
and stuff,
connecting it to like a vinyl record machine and calling the government to allow it to work. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it should be backed up the same way any other medium is.
Right.
Yeah. I think for a while the marketing behind games was more toy-esque. So it was like, who needs the old thing? Here's the new box. It's better. And now we're seeing the value in like the whole history of it. So yeah, I'm hoping that they do better in that regard.
Yeah. Big Disney Vault vibes in a very negative way. Do we have anything else on N64 or Mario 64 in particular?
Yeah, Lauren, I'd love to hear any kind of final thoughts you have on this game. And like, even though you haven't replayed it, like just kind of thinking back to that era or that game in particular.
Yeah, I guess I would love to. It would be remiss for me to leave this podcast segment without mentioning the weirdness of Peach. Princess Toadstool.
Yeah.
Peach. Like what is her name? Why does she have? I feel like they tried to have us pretend her name was Peach, and it was never Princess Toadstool. That was like her old name. Now she's Peach.
I was thinking that because it's gotten lost in translation over the games. So just kind of like Game of Telephone with her name, and the game opens with the letter, and it's signed, like you said, it's signed Princess Toadstool, and then she says Peach, like kind of cheeky, and I'm like, is that what like her friends call her? You know, like if you know the princess, she's like, no, don't call me Princess Toadstool. Like that's too
that's a little bit too much,
uptight.
too formal. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know why this came up, but I remember reading an interview with Marilyn Manson, and he's like, my friends call me M, because they're like, do we call you Marilyn or Manson? And he's like, just call me M. And I'm like, that's what Peach is doing.
That's
it's
what
like
she's doing.
Yeah, just sort of like if you're in the loop, you know, it's like in Fire Emblem Edelgard, it's like my really close friends call me L. Like it's like I think that's a very royal thing to do. But now everyone calls her Peach. Like they robbed her of her kind of regal privacy.
But she is like the least interesting, like least active character, but also like the beginning and the end of that game, right? I mean, she has promised to bake a cake, or she has like threatened, or she never did.
The more games that open, the more Mario games that open with her saying that she's baked a cake for Mario, the more it does feel like a threat. I totally agree. I think we were all a little naive in the first game in Mario 64. You know, it's like, oh, cool, we get a cake. That's great. But by the time Galaxy hits, it's like, oh, I'm going to visit Peach's castle to pick up a cake. Fucking been there before. And then, of course, Bowser bombs the place with his airships, and then you get abducted by aliens and thrust into the stars.
It's just so bizarre. We've talked about this a lot, like the relationship with Mario and Bowser, because like in the more recent games, Bowser seems almost tired of doing this. Like he's still being a creep, but like in Odyssey, he's like, you don't know how stressful it is planning a wedding. Like I'm doing the best I can, and you're ruining everything. And then that game ends with Peach, like Bowser and Mario are both like proposing to her on the moon, and she's like, ew, what? Like that's what you thought was gonna happen? And leaves. And Mario and Bowser are just together on the moon, like briefly united in this loss, but like also realizing they're kind of the same person. I feel like Peach is just kind of, I don't want to vilify her at all. If anything, she's the hero, but I feel like she is just so bored that this is all kind of a game to her. She's like, I can make Mario do whatever, and I can get Bowser to kidnap me and just see what happens.
Yeah, she seems so uninterested in the fact that she's been kidnapped every time at this point. Even honestly playing Sunshine when she gets kidnapped by Dark Shadow Mario, she's just like, not a single word from her about the fact that she's been kidnapped. There's no like, please help me, Mario, or whatever. And then in Galaxy, when she gets kidnapped, she's giving you gifts from jail. She's like sending you letters. Every once in a while, a Toad will show up and be like, oh, Princess Peach sent you some mail. And then it's like, here's a bunch of 1-up mushrooms. Have fun out there. It's great.
Yeah, it really is like the going back to like Mario and just the identity of the Mario Kingdom characters is so bizarre. Like it really is like, because they don't try to give it a narrative. Like this is us like really picking at straws in 64, but in Sunshine there's weirdly too much. Like I don't know if you're familiar with that game, Lauren, but it opens with Mario like having to do community service, otherwise he goes to jail. And there's like a 20-minute opening. It's so weird. And like, yeah, it's just really fascinating. I'm glad you brought up Peach. Do you have anything more to explore with her? Because I really am interested in this.
I don't know, but something that just came to mind, and I'm sure this has been discussed many times, but like their names, like why are there both of the brothers' names just one of the brothers?
Yeah. What do you mean?
Like the Mario brothers. Why? Oh, yeah. That's just one of them.
Their last names are apparently canonically Mario.
Okay.
So Mario's name is Mario,
okay.
and Luigi's name is Luigi Mario.
Okay, that's canon. Okay, that I didn't know.
Do we know Wario's last name? I love if it was like Mario Newman or something.
I have no idea. I don't know why that's canon. I don't know why they decided to say out loud in an interview one day that's what it should be. That was it, right? Yeah, that seems like the kind of thing that should just kind of be, left out in space somewhere, floating around, and maybe we shouldn't have heard with our mortal ears or something. But
right.
The Mario brothers. It's like the Animaniacs are technically the Warner Brothers,
Right. I thought it was just like one name became like we're the Steven brothers. But if it's his last name, that's
really
weirder.
Disturbing. Yeah. Oh my God.
It's freaky.
The Steven Brothers. That's the new name of this podcast, I think.
That's fine. That's fine by me, honestly. Just as hard
Brendan
to Google,
Steven,
I think.
And I'm Steven. Oh my God. That's amazing. Yeah. Cool. I guess we'll wrap up unless any of you have any final thoughts on 64 and just this era. But this has been so fun to explore with you, Lauren. I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Where can people find you? and what's going on these days?
What is going on these days? Well, I'm finishing my second book. It has no title, so if anyone wants to give me a title without knowing anything about it, I'd appreciate it.
Amazing.
The Stephen brothers.
Yes, the Stephen brothers. Thank you. And that's that.
Perfect. Yeah. Problem solved. I know you have a book out already called Lady Be Good, which is incredible. Highly recommend to all our audience to get it.
So much.
Cool. And where can people find you, like online and on Twitter or anything?
I'm on every platform. Actually, that's not true. I'm not on TikTok, but I am everywhere else. And my website's just my name.
Gotcha. Cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, we will wrap up this segment, but Lauren, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Dear listener, we will come back shortly with just sort of a wrap up of the whole episode. But thank you for joining us on this journey into Mario.
Goodbye.
Bye. Dear listener, that sums up all 3 entries in the 3D Super Mario All-Stars. This has been really fun to record. I mean, I'm really thankful for all our guests who joined us, and this is another one that we've recorded like over the course of the month. So I thought it'd be cool for us to take an opportunity to, like, now that we've played and talked about all 3 games, kind of like revisit our thoughts on these 3 entries in this series and like just, you know, wrap it all up.
Yeah. So what did you think going in? What did you think your ranking was going to be?
I wasn't sure. I mean, I was most excited about 64, you know, revisiting that. And I was most curious about Sunshine. I was surprised at how much I liked Galaxy, because I assumed that was going to be the one I cared least about. And that has, if you're going to say like which is the best game, like what's the most fun to play, it's Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like of the 3, I think there's no contest. That being said, I think 64 is still such a unique experience that it is absolutely worth playing if you haven't. And if you have, you're going to enjoy going back.
Yeah.
Sunshine is still the odd one out for me, but I am glad I checked it out. If I had to rank, I would say Galaxy, 64, Sunshine.
Yeah. I went in fully expecting Sunshine to be my favorite, I think, and then thought probably 64 and then Galaxy, and I'm just like kind of blown away by Galaxy. You know, when I played it originally on the Wii, I didn't really have the like brain space devoted to like thinking about video games. I just played them because I liked them, you know. So Galaxy has never had this like kind of magnum opus vibe in my head, I think, the way that it did for a lot of other people. But man, playing that game now, like, it is head and shoulders above the rest. It's so good. It's so well put together. And like, honestly, of these 3 games, you know, now that we're done recording this episode, I could technically like not play the 3D Mario collection anymore. You know, we could move on to play other games, which we will. I mean, we will play other games, and we're already playing other games for
full disclosure. I just want to say, like, the peek behind the curtain is like we just want to play Hades all the time.
That's true.
And this came out like I mean, I will definitely go back to this a lot. Like, I'm really glad I have access to these 3 games. Like, we talked with Lauren about game preservation and like experiencing these old things. But anyway, you were saying, I just wanted to like clarify why it's been a little bit of a struggle at moments.
Totally. Yeah. No, the point being, I just think like I could put this collection behind me if I wanted to, you know, as is kind of natural for making a show like this. We're just like constantly playing new things all the time. I will probably finish Mario Galaxy. I think like that is the one that I'm now like, I gotta get through this, because I didn't, you know, back when it came out, I never finished it, which is actually a thing I wanted to touch on when we were talking to Lauren about 64 and this idea of never finishing games back then, you know, either because they were too hard or just like you would get another thing and just kind of move on ambiently, you know. They're like just tons of games that I never finished back in the day. Galaxy is one of them, and I kind of actually want to see it through now, and I probably will, because it's such a joy to play. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's paced that well too. Like, you can find a spot in your schedule for it. It's like, okay, I'm going to do these 3 stars or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, like, and that leads to like, okay, like it's a much more catered experience than 64, which is so loose and open, and there's a magicalness to that.
Yeah.
I'll play both games. I think 64 weirdly peaks in the middle for me. Like, unlocking the basement and like that first collection of rooms and the basement is great. The upstairs is like weirdly anticlimactic. There's like some fun stuff. Like there's the painting where you're either really big or really small.
Yeah.
And then the clock is a classic level, but the clock is also something where like that was designed with a very Super Mario World idea of platforming, whereas the levels like Boo's Big Haunt or Big Boo's Haunt or the first level, the Babam Fortress, are so open and you can just kind of run around.
Yeah.
I think the game actually comes to a halt when you have to methodically stop and jump.
Right. Yeah. I'm totally with you. Yeah. Although something about the just like general vibe of that upstairs area is really stands out to me as like, once you get up there, it's kind of just exciting to be there. Even if the levels they're in aren't like super thrilling, like just being up there is like, oh my God, I went up the staircase. It actually worked this time.
It's really exciting. And I mean, the fact that the only other entrance is the endless staircase that, is endless until you have a certain number of stars only adds to that. Yeah, I mean, the clock is great. There's the whole rainbow cruise. There's the mountain with the monkeys. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff up there.
I don't know about you. Literally the first thing I did was I went up to that tower that has the stained glass window you can jump into. That does like the slide down on the kind of like red carpet. I mean, that's like such a classic level. And immediately like went down at once just to get the star, and then started trying to do that like big skip, where you just like shoot yourself off the edge and then land on it and like do it in like a couple seconds. That was another big shift in the DS version of that game too. Was there were like race versions of that, where they would like time you, and there were like rabbits that you would have to like catch as you were going down and stuff.
Yeah, the rabbit in the basement was another moment that always stood out to me.
Yeah. For some reason, the 64 remake on DS just had like tenfold rabbits. It was like the rabbits just like all reproduced and just like filled that entire castle.
Yeah, it's so mysterious because the only other character you see outside of a painting in the castle, other than like Toads and Peach and stuff. Like, I think that's cool of the game. Like, because I think, you can mainline a level and get all the stars and then move on. But the fact that like it's up to you how to get the number of stars required is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like, when Laura and I played when we were younger, I remember like not fully knowing how to get some stars, but just by exploring, you'll end up like in the slide one, by jumping around.
Yeah,
like,
that's the other thing with that era of games is you had so much time anyway. Yeah, you had so much time to just fuck around and eventually stumble on something cool. And like that's not really a thing that you and I have as much anymore. And I have a little bit less patience for games that don't, I guess, direct me at all, I would say, these days, with I would say a few notable exceptions, but there is something kind of magical about playing 64 specifically and just like revisiting that era of game design.
Totally, yeah. But I think the newfound appreciation for Galaxy is the biggest surprise, because that is the moment they kind of figured it out in 3D. They made it work in a way that I think if we only had Sunshine in 64, we would maybe say like, oh, it was fun, but like it didn't really age well. Like that transition to 3D wasn't as kind to Mario, but like they figured it out in Galaxy. In a way that I think a lot of other platformers in their transition to 3D kind of stumbled. Like Sonic, the clear example.
Dom bringing up Odyssey in that first segment like really colored the way I was thinking about the rest of it also, as we did other sections. I just couldn't stop thinking about like what an achievement Odyssey was. Again, and I mentioned this once at the top, and I'll mention this again, and I've mentioned this in a lot of episodes, but like I'm not the biggest Mario fan. Like I just am not. I like these games when I play them, and I think they're really stellar. But I never get excited about a Mario game until I have my hands on it, really. Like, they announced Mario Odyssey. I was like, all right, cool. Maybe I'll get it eventually one day. And then I picked it up and, played the whole thing in a weekend because it was just like you couldn't not. And that's the case with every Mario game. But Odyssey, I played so quickly that I don't think I really appreciated it as much as I could have. And now playing these three games, it's like, oh man, Odyssey really was like the culmination of everything they learned in 64 and Sunshine and Galaxy 1 and 2 and 3D World and, XYZ thing. I would say 3D World is the only one that, like, going into this collection, I had like a real affinity for, where I played that game and I just am constantly thinking about how much of a fucking joy it was. And I can't wait to play it again. And we'll talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that 3D World is definitely more in line with Galaxy, where it's like, here's the catered list. We're playing the hits. And Odyssey like gets a little bit of DNA from 64 with the openness and the weirdness, which is why I think like weirdly playing through these games, it has solidified that Odyssey is my favorite. Not in a way of like, oh, I'd rather be playing Odyssey, but I'm just like, man, Odyssey killed it. Like Odyssey really, we've said it many times already, but that is what I picked up. But I think, it's really worth experiencing all three of these games because you will find one that works best for you. I do see why Sunshine is a lot of people's favorites, even though it kind of bumped up against me a little bit. I can see why all three of these games had the impact they did, and it's a really cool collection.
Yeah. Once you get your feet under you in Sunshine, it really does start to take off a little bit more. I found I had some like technical issues with Sunshine also that I didn't bring up in our segment with Pablo, but like that game, playing it in handheld mode was kind of a dream and like was very responsive and great. And anytime I plugged it into the dock, it was like framey and laggy, and like there was a delay in the input between my controller and the TV, which was like making it very hard to play that game the way I play most games on the Switch. I play most games on the Switch in docked mode. I don't think I've mentioned that in a long time, so it's worth mentioning again. I play in handheld mode like almost never. But Sunshine, I almost had to exclusively play in handheld mode because I had such a hard time with it docked, which was kind of a bummer. But that said, like as soon as I kind of like locked down, how to use the flood and things like that, the realization that pressing the right stick in would put me into like a first person view to shoot water, like all that stuff. Once that all clicked, it was like, oh yeah, this game rips. It's still really fun. Like and as you mentioned in that segment, and I think like you put it really well, like if that game had come out with a name that wasn't Mario, if that character was not Mario and was not a Super Mario game, but was the exact same game, just swap that character out, like it would be a cult classic, huge mega hit,
Totally.
It's just when you hold it up to Odyssey and Galaxy 1 and 2 and everything else, it's like this is probably one of the weaker ones, but still great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of like weirdly, I think Sunshine and Odyssey are going for similar vibes, but like one worked and one didn't quite as well.
Yeah.
Just in terms of everything being cohesive, I think that Sunshine is doing really cool things uniquely in moments, which is why I found it frustrating. It's a brilliant game in moments, and I think you can see that it was a little rushed. But yeah, man, I'm really happy I have my hands on this. I'm happy I always have it, that I don't have to set up my Wii or my 64 to play these games. I do think that, we mentioned that the motion controls in Galaxy like feel tacked on conceptually, but they play really well on the Switch because the Switch low key is a great Wii. It has the motion controls.
I didn't want to get too in the weeds on this, like when we were recording the bit, but now we're all the way at the end of the episode, so I think it's fine. The thing that I think is the huge differentiator between playing this game on original hardware on the Wii and playing this on the Switch, and why I actually think it's probably better to play this game on the Switch than the Wii, is that the way the Switch works is you're not pointing the IR blaster at the top of your Joy-Con towards the motion sensor bar that the Wii used to have, right? So when you're playing on the Wii, you had to be pointing at the screen to play the game at all times. Like if you wanted to collect stuff or do whatever, you had to literally lift your arm up and like point it at the screen so the sensor bar would register all the inputs. The way the Switch works is brilliant. It works this way with the Joy-Cons and with the Pro Controller, which is that anytime you press the right trigger, or is it the right trigger or is it
It's
R?
the right bumper, I think.
The right bumper, yeah. Anytime you press the right bumper, it just recenters the kind of like the pointer wherever you just happen to be pointing at that moment. So you could very comfortably just like have your arm resting down, press the right bumper to reset the middle of the pointer exactly wherever your arm is rested. And then you just kind of have to move your wrist around a little bit if you want to like collect stuff. And that little shift in how you play the game makes it a much more laid back, relaxing experience than it did on the original hardware. And I think it's probably why I'm actually enjoying it more now. It also works surprisingly well on the Pro Controller if you out there have a Pro Controller. But as you said in the segment, playing with the split Joy-Cons is like the way to go. It is so fun that way.
Yeah, it's just a great time. I'm so happy. And I beat that game. I kind of binged it when it came out, like I said earlier, but I will probably try to finish it again. Because that's the thing too, is like Mario games have a nice length to them. They're usually like, if you want to just mainline it, it's like 5 to 6 hours. And if you do everything, it's longer.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do a game where it's like, okay, like we're not going to demand too much of you to have the critical path, but if you want to go in the weeds, you can. Odyssey, I think, did that brilliantly, where you get that incredible finale. I can't get over it. That finale is so good.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then, Luigi's like, hey, bro, I've got some new ideas if you want to play Balloon World.
Yeah, here's the dark side of the moon. Here's an entire new segment of stars that you can get on all the old levels. Yeah, I mean, just brilliant the way that they built an end game into that, because it's the classic Super Mario World shtick where there's a secret star zone. It's like, oh, this is thrilling. Or Lost Levels having, the A, B, C, D, E worlds when you beat the game.
Yeah.
It's that, but in Odyssey, which just means that they created a whole slew of extra extremely AAA Nintendo content in a full ass 3D world that just gets unlocked when you beat the actual game, which is incredible. So I imagine a lot of people put that game down when they rolled credits on it, but there's so much more to explore and there's so much interesting stuff there. You're right. The more I talk about it, the more I'm like, I just got to go back and play Odyssey again. And I hope they make an Odyssey too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was wondering, how do you follow Odyssey in a way, because but that's how I feel. I think a lot of people felt that way about Galaxy, and Galaxy 2.
Yeah.
And that led to Super Mario 3D World and Odyssey. So they'll do something great. And I think Odyssey 2 would make sense. I wouldn't mind a direct sequel to that, honestly. I think
now there's precedent for it. It just feels like, why not?
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, I mean, again, with the cappy mechanic especially, you can just add a bunch of new enemies to possess, and that's a whole new game already.
But also knowing Nintendo, they're going to be like, Super Mario underwater only, that's going to be it. They're like,
Super Mario Snorkel Week.
Yeah. We went to space, we went to the beach, we went, all over the planet, and now it's time to explore the oceans, and you're only swimming.
Maybe that's why I don't really like
bloopers.
Sunshine, because they're like, you are permanently in a water level.
Yeah.
No, I dug Sunshine, but not quite as much. But yeah, going back to Jolly Roger Bay in 64, a nightmare. That level's not good, but the music is so beautiful that it makes it one of my favorite levels.
I was honestly, every once in a while I'll just turn that song on on YouTube and just leave it on in the background. I'll find that YouTube on repeat website and just listen to that music all the time.
Actually, worth pointing out, I don't think we mentioned this, one of the it's not much, but I think it's a really nice addition in the collection on Switch, 3D All-Stars. From the main menu, you have the 3 games, and you also have all 3 soundtracks, and you can just leave them on. Yeah, which is really nice because you can only really find these soundtracks on YouTube, and there's always ads and stuff. So just to have because all 3 soundtracks are incredible. Yeah, they're all really good, and they're all going for a different vibe. Sunshine, as Pablo pointed out, has that a cappella version of the original theme, which is so good.
Yeah, it rules. Honestly, 64 obviously kind of like a trailblazer, and has all those MIDI instruments, but so many of those songs are I think things that we hum in our sleep without realizing it. And then Sunshine also still having that MIDI instrumentation, but really stands out as having its own vibe. That's really fun, and I love listening to that stuff. And then Galaxy is unbelievable. Galaxy
more
is
orchestral. Yeah, it's more whimsical. 64, is just almost dreamlike and surreal. And then you have the kind of vacation-y vibe of Sunshine. Yeah. And then the whimsy of the space orchestra.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. That's the thing. And I understand, again, I mean, we talked about it, but I understand this thought that they could have probably done more with this collection, I imagine. But even just the inclusion of the music stuff is that's fine. That's fun. I mean, I can't listen to it on the go really, but I can plug it into my, TV and just leave it on while I'm doing dishes or something. And that's honestly really nice. I've done that more than once so far.
Remember when they were hyping up Smash Brothers and they're you can listen to the soundtrack and turn your Switch and sleep and use it as an iPad or iPod to listen to Spotify.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no one's ever going to do that. Yeah, it's very silly.
I think that, the biggest gripe I have with this collection is the limited time offer. That to me is the biggest.
And we still don't even know how that's going to shake out. It might just be a limited time, and then those 3 games get released on the eShop separately. That could be it. And honestly, that might be fine. Even if that stuff is expensive, at least it's there, is kind of how I feel about it. Because as we just said, in our segment with Lauren, like it is a bummer that we all have these really like emotional attachments to these old games that we can't play without pirating them or spending $800. You know, like that should not be how we relive our childhoods. That should not be how we revisit the things that we love, especially considering, you know, just look at literally any other medium. Libraries exist for books. Turner Classic Movies is a subscription service that has every movie that came out from like the beginning of film up through now. You know, that's great. The Criterion Collection, things like that. You know, I mean, like we have this for every other medium, and it's kind of like a huge bummer that we don't have it for games. And that's kind of one of the reasons I'm so excited about Microsoft. But you know, I'm not going to turn this into a Game Pass and Xbox backwards compatibility episode also.
That's, I mean, as we've said before, like that's one of the reasons I'm excited about getting a Series S is because the launch lineup for me is like Jet Set Radio Future and Oblivion, which is so surreal. Yeah. But it's amazing. And I think the original Wii was actually onto something with how good the online store was. Like so many games were available. Yeah. And the Wii U as well. It's kind of a shame the Switch hasn't followed suit, given the Switch has had amazing third-party support and like, you know, a lot of great indie games that are coming out now, but we can do more. And I think the arcades are a start, you know, with having Nintendo Online, but like that's a very small baby step in terms of game preservation.
Yeah, and they're so infrequently updated. You don't even know when they're going to come out, and right. I don't know. Also, it's just NES and Super Nintendo, and like that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy having those two, but like, is there going to be more? When is there going to be more? I don't know. It's less of me being bummed out about the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection and more me being bummed out about Nintendo as a whole. You know, as many times they knock it out of the park, they also hit a foul ball, you know?
Totally. Yeah.
I love baseball.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I had a blast revisiting these games and I will definitely go back to most of them. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much to our three guests. So cool to have people on. We were just saying in between recording the last segment and this one, just like how much of an actual low-key video game podcast this episode was to record, because it was like literally just us having like very chill conversations with our friends and family, which like was great. I mean, what a fun thing to do, especially considering we open every episode of the show saying that it's a low-key video game podcast, and then one of us does an impression that hurts the other one emotionally and physically. It was nice to like have an actual chill time. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I guess let us know, you know, if you're listening to this and you like this and you would like more episodes like this. We thought it'd be fun to kind of just like break out of the realm of things that we generally do and try some new stuff. We always want to try new stuff on the show. So yeah, let us know if you liked it.
Totally. Yeah. I had a great time. I thought you asked me at first. I'm like, I had fun. Like, oh, that was to the dear listener. Okay. Yeah, but I guess we'll wrap up then. Thanks again to all our patrons who make these bonus episodes possible. You know who you are. Thank you all just for the a lot. I mean, right now, like recording this, I feel like we've been seeing the increase in support and in the audience and people reaching out, and like that's all really exciting. And we want to follow up on the support we're getting. So that's why you're seeing a lot more streaming and a lot more, you know, just stuff we're trying to do. So it always feels like we're doing more with what we're getting. So just thank you for letting this growth happen.
For real. Yeah. I mean, yeah, as Steven's saying, like we're streaming way more, which we've been saying we were going to do for a long time, but like is actually happening now, which is really fun and has been an extremely cool time. But yeah, honestly, at the end of the day, like, you know, this show exists because Steven and I wanted to reconnect and talk about video games, you know, and we were like, let's turn it into a podcast. That'd be fun. And that's kind of the approach that we've taken to everything that we've done for this show, you know, and streaming is another extension of that. Now I get to wake up every morning and like have a reason to get out of bed. That's not just going to work, which is very helpful for me. Totally. So that's been really great. And as we've said, like the Discord is continuing to grow and is getting cooler and cooler. I'll talk about that more on the episode we're recording tomorrow, which, you know, based on timing might come out before this one or after this one. I'm not really sure of the situation yet, when this episode's going to come out. But yeah, the Discord community has just been like more and more exciting and welcoming and cool and like kind of taking things and running with it. And yeah, I don't know, just the support's been really cool. So yeah, again, thank you to everybody who's listening. Thank you to everybody who's shouting us out in cool places. Thank you to people writing Apple podcast reviews. We noticed some new ones there. Yeah, just a lot of cool stuff and more cool stuff on the horizon. As we said, we have the other bonus episodes for the rest of the year planned out. This was going to be a different one, but then, you know, kind of like red alert situation when this collection got announced. So maybe we'll revisit that game. I don't want to say what it was.
Yeah, it was going to be. I mean, I think we made the right decision, but I think it'll be worth revisiting the other idea in the future.
I completely agree. Yeah, but yeah, we have some cool stuff planned for the rest of the year. We're trying, hopefully, to record games of the year in person if possible. Get COVID tests and all that kind of stuff, and would love to make that happen. We'll, I guess let you guys know if that ends up happening or not. But yeah, I don't know, just some cool stuff planned for the rest of the year. It's going to be exciting.
I'm excited. Yeah. Just thank you all.
Yeah. Hey, go check out intothecast.online. That's our website that has links to everything. That's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, the Patreon, the Discord. I mean, everything is there. If you want to listen to us on, I don't know, Stitcher or Google Home, I imagine there's links or something there as well. You could listen to us on a normal place also, but it depends. Whatever you want. All those links are at intothecast.online. That is also the link that probably makes the most sense to share with people if you want to share the show with them and they want to check it out. But that said, if you can think of a better way for us to share the show than intothecast.online, please let us know any way that you want using any of the links that you find on intothecast.online, because we're always open to changing some stuff around. But that said, do you want to wrap up? Should we be done?
Yeah, I think that's all there is to say. Cool. Thank you so much for listening. My name's Stephen Hilger. You can find me at Stephen Hilger.
My name is Brendan Bigley. You can find me on the internet at Brendan Bigley.
So long.
Goodbye.
Woohoo! Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Here I go. Wahoo.
Thank you so much for playing my game.